You know what we need? We need some sort of music to know that we're live. And we are live right now. It's Show Me the Money Club with Sergio and myself. We have special guests today. Steve, Rideshare Rodeo, to my side. And below me, we have David from Para. So we want to say thank you guys for coming on. We have some good stuff coming from you guys. What's going on? And we have several other topics that we're going to be talking about today too, with Uber's earnings statements, with some of the new features that they are saying that they're coming out with today for the Uber Pro program or awards. We'll talk about that with our thoughts and quite a few other things. So thank you guys for coming on. Appreciate it. How you guys doing?
Great.
Good.
Without me yakking too much, above me, or that's the way I'm seeing it, Steve, Rideshare Rodeo, Steve Johnson. Steve, you go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll go to David Pickerel, who's the CEO of Para and has been in the news quite a bit. I'm sure everybody read the New York Times. Wonderful, actually. It was a really good article about him. So go ahead and introduce yourself, guys.
So I'm Steve, Rideshare Rodeo. You can find the podcast, YouTube channel, and I also work a lot with Para. Have since day one, actually since before day one. Yeah. But I'm very interested in the Para Works thing that we'll get to later. But that's kind of more my forte with this Para deal. Hopefully, a lot of you guys know about. But David,
hey, thanks for having me. Great to be here. I'm David, CEO and co-founder of Para. We're trying to build what I call a personal dispatch system on behalf of each individual gig worker. And I think sort of the feature that we're most known for is our DoorDash tip transparency feature. But really what we're trying to do is build tools that empower gig workers and particularly drivers to get the most with their time and to be in control of their work. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So this is quite timely, actually, guys. The reason I'm saying that is because one of the subjects we're going to talk about, actually, it's the headline of the episode today, is our disruptors about to get disrupted. Hey, everybody has their turn, you know what I mean? But so Steve, why aren't you wearing a collared shirt today? Because you were wearing that on Pedro's virtual gig conference, and you look very handsome. I thought, maybe.
Why am I not wearing a collared shirt?
Yeah, like a nice, like a collared shirt, like a polo.
Why is Chris not?
Yeah, I was surprised. I've known Steve for 2+ years, and I've never seen him in a collared shirt. So
we got to need.
I don't know. Harry never sent mine, so.
yeah, exactly. You have never worn Rideshare Guy stuff. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I don't have it.
Harry sent me a hat. I've worn it.
Is that Harry's hat?
No, but I've worn it.
Yeah, I have a hat from Harry, and I have a hat from Gary. So.
Oh, okay. There you go, guys. So see, there we go. So we're huge in branding, as you guys can tell. All right. So without too much gibberish, let's get into Para. So David, please tell us what Para is for our audience, what it did, and what kind of reception it got from the driver community, specifically, mostly I would say from the delivery driver community, but in general, and what the evil empire and the dysfunctional little sister are doing to kind of shut you down. Now, another thing I have to say about David is that David worked at Uber Technologies for a year and a half. He set up their whole Las Vegas operations, which is not an easy feat, obviously. And he can talk about all that stuff, like what those days were like, and Wild Wild West days, right, David? So let's go. We'll start with Para. Tell us what it is, what it does, and what the situation is with these two, with a couple of major companies that are trying to stop you from what you're doing.
Yeah. So. We're really trying to put a tool that puts the driver in charge of their work, right? And we've sort of noticed that there are a lot of tools who would try to do a good job of this in the past, right? So if you took a look, there was sort of a Maximo driver utility helper. Before that, you had prior versions of that, sort of if you were driving on Uber or if you're driving on Lyft. But I think really why we're building what we're building now is a couple things, right? So if you rewound a couple of years ago, Uber drivers, some Uber drivers drove on Lyft, but no Uber and Lyft drivers drove on DoorDash. No DoorDash people drove on Instacarts. Most people drove maybe 1 point something apps. But that really changed in COVID, right? People were forced to have to drive on multiple apps to make ends meet. And I think people learned that new behavior, and that behavior really is here to change, right? So what we've seen is a lot of people are driving on 3+ apps on our system, but it's really damn hard to do that, right? So you're on the road juggling between multiple apps yelling at you at the same time while you're driving at cobblestone at night in Seattle in the rain, and somebody's opening a car door when you're doing that. And really our philosophy is, one, what can we do to take away all of that friction? Two, what can we do to give the driver a voice in that? So what that means is the driver, you should be able to say, hey, I want to make the most money. Or you should be able to say, hey, I need to pick up my daughter from school at 1 p.m. so I can only drive in a 10-mile radius the 3 hours beforehand. And I hate Instacart, so don't give me that shit. Right? And I think sort of the third part is, why stop at the human limit of being able to monitor 3 or 4? There's actually a lot more opportunities now if you're a driver just within gig, right? So pharmaceutical, last mile, B2B, marijuana. Like in some cities, there's 20, 30, 40 options, but of course you can't scan 20, 30, 40 options. So really what we're trying to build is a way for you to unlock all of your opportunities in one place, have them all come into one feed, and based off of your preferences, for us to be able to sort of almost have a bot that works for you. I always sort of view this as like you have an algorithm that represents you that talks back to the algorithm of the platform. And that's really how we're going to build, gig economy 2.0. I think pausing really quickly and taking a step back, people are like, whoa, that's cool. But like, what about tip transparency? Right. So what happened is that in the process of trying to build some of this technology, we realized when trying to integrate with DoorDash that this tip information was being sent to the driver's phone. And it was one of those moments where I was out driving and sort of running tests on the system. And we saw that, hey, there's this hidden tip on this trip. And it made me change my behavior. So it was a trip that was supposed to go a couple miles to South San Francisco. And there's no way I would have done that before, right? It's just like, I'm not going to go out of the main core zone to go deliver something during the middle of lunch rush. That's not that much money. Right. But when I found out what the hidden tip on it was, I went and I waited at that restaurant for 20 minutes and then I took it all the way there, and it changed my behavior, right? Yep. And it had sort of this moment where it was like, look, this wasn't the original goal to build this, but what we've discovered feels like should be the right of every driver to know. And because it's the right of every driver to know, we're just going to put this out there so that it can help people. And we put it out there, and for the first couple weeks, people thought I was a scammer, right? So I had a lot of people saying, hey, you're going to steal my bank account information. You're here to scam me. But I made a video every day, put my phone number out there, responded to everything. And we were lucky that the tide sort of shifted and people were like, hey, if this is a scam, this is the highest touch scam we've ever seen, right? And then basically over the course of a couple of weeks, the tip transparency just really blew up. So I think pretty much in a 5 or 6 week period, we went from 0 users on the system to over 270,000 drivers using tip transparency in like a 4-week period.
Wow.
Sort of, that was awesome to us, right? Because we were just helping drivers exercise their right to make an informed decision. But I think we grew so big, so fast, so publicly that DoorDash came and served us a cease and desist and started this technical battle where they were trying to stop us from doing effectively that. And that's the beginning of,
right,
now being on a year-plus journey on that side of things.
Right. So obviously, you don't have as many probably coders as DoorDash does, right? You're fighting an uphill battle from, that point on, right? And I never did deliveries, to be honest with you. I call myself an idiot for not doing deliveries during the pandemic many times already, but then, I started doing deliveries a few months ago. And obviously, on both apps, there's hidden tips for sure. There is no doubt about it. Specifically on Uber Eats, there are certain matrix you have to watch when you're accepting the ping that there is a hidden tip in there, right? And also same thing as DoorDash. So, I mean, in California, I kind of understand why they're doing this, because that's why I call, Steve is very fond of this Prop 22 thing in California, right? So a lot of what Prop 22 brought up is, pretty much killed the delivery business in California, because it kind of tells people, hey man, accept every door trash order, hidden tip, no hidden tip, what do you care? Because we're going to pay you $22 anyway if you accept everything on an active hour basis. So I'm like, that's horrible. And then once I figured this out, then I started thinking about you, David. I go like, man, I wish I had that app, because I'm like, I know. I mean, look, if you're reasonably intelligent, you can figure out where the hidden tips are. However, why make it a guessing game, right? Yeah. And, there's no reason to make it a guessing game. And you kind of got rid of the guessing game, and then they didn't like it, did they?
No, and I think they're just, to some extent, it's purposefully done as a guessing game, right? The whole idea is almost like a pull a slot or a casino. They're trying to do sort of this like gambling mentality to some extent, right? Is really what's going on. And look, as you said before, I worked at Uber, right? I understand why the platforms are trying to do this, right? They want to balance the marketplace. They want people to, take trips and have a good experience for the end customer who's ordering. I get that. But at the end of the day, how I view it is really simple. And I think a story I will tell for when I was Uber, I was guilty of this, right? So they're just looking at it the wrong way. I understand why you're doing something, but at the end of the day, our philosophy is if drivers are independent contractors, you should have all the information you need on whether you want to take a trip or not. And it really is just that simple. You can try to explain why you're doing it all you want, but for us, it really is a simple yes or no question. Yeah. That's really what we're trying to push.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that 100%, but I think I saw, on which we're going to talk about next, about your driverrights.org, right? These companies, and I've said this publicly a million times, and they're trying to having the cake and eat it too, right? You can't treat me like an employee and call me an independent contractor. This has to end at some point. How it's going to end, we can talk about, obviously, if you want, with the Department of Labor stuff that's coming down, which I listened to the conference call. Uber today, earnings came out. Dara was not one bit phased about it whatsoever. He was like, it's not a big deal. I'm like, okay, we'll see what happens. But to that point that you just made, if I'm an independent contractor, I made this analogy a million times on air, in my articles. I have a lot of friends who are true independent contractors. They're plumbers, electricians, air conditioning contractors, right? Yeah. So if I call you and say, hey, buddy, I have a job for you, and you say, as me, the electrician, independent contractor, I go, great, what is it? And the customer says, I'm not going to tell you that until you get here. I go, what? What kind of BS is that? So to me, we're not independent. My opinion, again, simply my opinion, we're not independent contractors.
Yeah, I just feel like there's a set of obligations that come with being an independent contractor and having an independent contractor workforce, and the companies should honor those obligations, really.
Yeah. So what do you think now, since we're at it, we should talk about that for a couple of minutes. As you know, or may not know, I don't know how closely you follow the industry, but I'm sure you do, is major cities in the country. Uber tested this in about 25, smallish, medium kind of size cities. And, there's a new thing I call it UFD. UFD is upfront fares and upfront destination, right? Yep. So now I don't know if they had inside info that the building was about to collapse from Washington on them, and they brought this upon them and saying that, hey, man, we got to tell these people where they're going finally, after fighting in tooth and nail, which I'm sure you did too, David, in Vegas when you were setting their Vegas operations. We don't want the driver to know where the passenger is going. But that's a true independent contractor. I want to know what the job is before I accept it, to see if it's profitable or not, right?
And the logic has never changed, right? They said we don't want to tell it so that the end consumer can have a good experience. And I think what DoorDash will say is we don't want to say what the full pay is, because drivers might cherry pick and the bad trips won't get taken and people will only take the good trips. Yeah. I frankly think that's a little insulting, right? Most drivers are working there to make a paycheck. And if you're saying that most people would rather sit around to only fish the best stuff, to me, that just means that your normal trips are just uncompelling then, right? So I don't think most people are just out there to work just to only try to optimize for that one good trip. That's just not true. So I think that's really how I view that, is like, I think that's an excuse, frankly, right? Is like make the other trips better, and that won't be the case.
Yeah, absolutely. But, so what do you think about this, that now Uber on the rideshare side anyway, but they've been doing that, they've been releasing the delivery side for a while now, the destination, or let's say where you're delivering the food, Now they're doing it on rideshare. They have done it, in major cities. It's going to be nationwide by the end of the year, probably, right? So it's in LA, San Diego, San Francisco. They're top 20 markets: Chicago, Atlanta, DC. So now they're giving you that information, right? So because I don't know if you know or not, we interviewed the CEO of Uber a couple of months ago, and he said, "Look, man, we want you to accept everything." I go, "Great. Then show me where I'm going." So, okay, that's part of the puzzle. The second part of the puzzle is, he said, if you're not accepting because our algo is not pricing rides correctly. Well, we've been talking about this for 2-3 weeks now. The algo is definitely not pricing rides correctly, because the people's acceptance rates are absolutely crashing right now, because they're looking at the job and where they're going. They go like, "Hey, this is garbage. I'm not going to do this," right? But what do you think about that? Are we now quasi independent contractors because they're showing us what the job is and what it's going to pay?
I don't think it's quasi-independent contractor. I think people reached out to me. They're like, "Hey, is this a good or a bad thing that the companies have done?" I'm like, I love it.
Yep.
This is a driver's right, and you should have all the information you need to make an informed decision. And I've always said that about tip transparency, is I wish we didn't have to do it. In a world in which DoorDash just gave this information away to everybody,
Yep.
I would be a very happy person, because that's really how I believe that is, Uber and Lyft should have always been doing that, and you should always have all of that information. Now, does that mean you are a true independent contractor? I don't think so yet, right? I think it's a step in the right direction. So if you're an independent contractor, you should have the information you need to make an informed decision, but you should also be able to use the tools you want to run your business. You should also have competition for your time. And I think that's really what we're trying to build with this dispatch system, is the idea that you should be able to use a tool to get all your jobs in one place, to truly get that competition for time, and that the best platform should win by paying you the most and by having a good experience, not because of the friction that they're putting on the experience for you. So the analogy I give is, if you're running a restaurant, right? I can have my operating system for my restaurant, and I can get a feed from DoorDash, I can get a feed from Uber Eats, and I can get a feed from Grubhub that comes into my one operating system for me to run my restaurant. Why can a driver not have that? I should be able to have my operating system where I get the feeds of all my jobs into it with full information that I can then use to run my business, right? And I think that really is what it means to be a true independent contractor, is I'm in charge of my work, I have a say in the system, my time is valuable, and I have the information that I need to make an informed decision. So
great. Yeah. I mean, what do you think we're missing to be truly independent contractors? Like, okay, how about this? How about tomorrow Uber says, okay, you know what? We're also going to allow you to name your price now for the job. Hey, I name it high, I name it low. A lot of plumbers and electricians, they name their price. If the bid is too, or the quote is too high, the customer will go to the next one. I'll go hungry for a couple of days, but I'll adjust and I'll lower my pricing. And then now I'm a true independent contractor. What would happen then?
I think you should be able to set your own parameters and your own preferences
exactly
in a way that isn't just a race to the bottom in the bidding style that they'd implemented here in California previously.
Yep.
And I also think that there should be transparency as to what are the parameters by which you get or don't get trips. Right. So if I have certain acceptance thresholds or cancellation thresholds, or if I maintain this means you get that. And I think it's too much of a black box. Even if I can set my own price, you just don't understand what the system or the game is.
Right.
So that's what I believe.
So Steve, what is your relationship with Para? What do you do for them or with them? And you tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so well, David and I met like literally days into the pandemic. I mean, literally, I mean, it was like the first or second week of April of 2020. And David was starting autonomy.jobs, which was kind of more towards the driver rights thing than it is towards Para. I think especially at the time. And I was fully on board with that, needing to know your data, needing to know transparency. Like I've heard you guys talking about it on the show. Now they're showing upfront fares, all this. Well, why weren't they 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Where has this been forever? Because this is all we've asked. It seems like a lot of the independent contractor fighting that's going on would go away had they simply done this.
Yeah, none of that AB5 Prop 22 would be around if it was that, right? All the money spent, all the millions.
And that's the main thing. All the money wasted on both sides, but especially when they have to waste it, because if other states don't think that they come and are taking that money out of us, other states, to balance out California AB5. What do you think we're going to do when there's unions sticking your hands in the pocket?
Yeah.
So that was, that was pre-Para. And then Para, like David said, when the tip transparency hit, it's like that's what it became known for. But I knew David had bigger plans. I knew that there was a lot more stuff that he just didn't expect that one thing to blow up like it did and be the centerpiece of Para. And really,
but you know what though? I think we don't have enough Davids on the planet, right? Just for the fact that either they don't have the balls to go up these, giants. I mean, I don't mind. I say whatever I say, and then I get emails from, Uber guys, this guy, like, oh, look at Serge said this. I'm like, I don't care, bro. I mean, what are you going to do? Deactivate me? Go ahead, deactivate me. I was like, what do I care? But I'm calling it the way I'm seeing it. And it seems like what David has done is like, it definitely ruffles some feathers over there, right, David? So tell us where Para is today. Like, can drivers download this still? What's happening? Like, what are these people fighting? I mean, on one hand, it's kind of, an oxymoron. Like, one hand, they go, oh, here, you have the destination now. But on the other hand, we don't like this guy, David, because, he's getting rid of tip hiding, what do you call it? Tip baiting, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So where is Para now? What are you doing? What's going on?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think really what I said at the beginning of the show is we want to build what I call that personal dispatch system on behalf of the worker. What that means super practically right now is you can still connect your Uber Eats, Uber, Grubhub accounts. We have Lyft in beta right now, and you can auto decline trips based off of the parameters you set. So you can say, hey, I don't like the dollar per mile, total dollars, all of that. And we will go through all the trips come into one feed. We give you some extra information about those trips. So we can tell you if it's in a house, an apartment, if it's an office you're delivering to. We do some of the math around net earnings, dollars per mile, etc. We have another feature that people really like, which is what we call flag offer feature. So if you got an offer from an apartment, a restaurant, an apartment, a restaurant, or to a place that you liked or didn't like, you can flag it. And if it shows up across any other of the platforms, we will tell you why you liked or didn't like it. So when we first launched this, it was actually sort of a negative thing. So like, hey, this restaurant didn't let me use the bathroom. Hey, this office was a bit of a pain to get to. But actually what we found was most people wanted to flag. Our number one requested thing is, can I flag it for positive reasons? So actually, we've seen a lot of good flagging. So this person tipped me well. This person treated me well. This person has a broken foot and tipped me well. So I would like to deliver to this person again. But just sort of these features that make cross-platform work a bit better, essentially, is sort of what we call the driver tools side of things. And on the other side of things for Para works, in that vein of this personal dispatch system, really what that means is what can we do to get as many good high-paying opportunities in front of you so that we can help you accept and decline and make the most money. So on the Para work side of things, what we basically said is, look, if you have an account with us, you have this work history. You've driven on DoorDash, you've driven on Uber, you've driven on Lyft. That's worth something to other platforms that want your work, right? So why should you have to go to this new platform and hear about them, sign up, fill out a background check, wait 3 days, scan the app on an ongoing basis when they don't have that many trips, and for you to figure out how that fits into your platform? So what we basically said is you should be able to unlock these trips from good platforms just based off of your work history. And it should be as simple as I'm pre-approved for these opportunities. I click that, the pings show up in the feed, and I can just do the work. So right now we're working with roughly 12 or 13 partners in a couple cities, hoping to expand that more over the next couple months, just to put good opportunities in front of drivers amongst the DoorDash, Grubhub, and other work that they're doing. So what that looks like right now is we have lunch catering trips to e-commerce delivery to something called merchandising to routes, etc. But our goal there really is can we find opportunities that you can discover that pay you more than you'd be making right now? And that's really what we're doing there.
So, we all know, Steve, as you know as well, you have other apps, I'm not going to name it there, but who I'm talking about, right? I mean, I think you talk on your channel quite a bit about a couple of them that exist that, try to say, we're going to make everything easy for the driver. We're going to tell you what your most top earnings are. And if you don't make that money, we're going to guarantee you the money, all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So to me, in general, this is my algorithm right here. I know the flow of the city, and I know where I can maximize my potential.
Yeah.
Now, do I need one of those apps? Do I need Para? Para, probably I do, but the rest, I don't think I do. I'm like, why? I know better than the app anyway. I mean, who cares? The app was written, or algos were written by a human. I can kind of figure this out in about a couple of hours when I drive.
Yeah.
But this is for the masses, because most drivers don't even know what the heck is going on, and most of them are new. And I think it'll be a huge leg up, as opposed to just driving willy-nilly, accepting every garbage chip that these people are sending him. So going back to that, though, 1 second, something popped up in my head. So as you know, David, right, the algos decide who gets what. I mean, look, I've been around for 7 years in the gig economy, initially with rideshare, now with delivery and everything else. Man, I've been throttled more times than I can remember my name. You know, hopefully what throttling means, right? So because you accept like you decline 6 Uber Eats orders in a row, man, for the next half hour, I'm sitting there not getting one ping. Well, I know I'm being throttled because I'm sitting in front of the goddamn restaurant, right?
Yeah, you see everybody show up. Yeah.
And not only that, the funniest thing happened to me, and we laughed at it, is like, I'm sitting in my neighborhood in front of a super busy noodle shop, right? I see all these drivers going in and out of the noodle shop. And I'm like, I'm sitting here not getting a request. I know I'm being throttled. Guess who showed up? My wife showed up in her little Bolt and picked up an order while I'm sitting there with my app on. And I was like, how is this funny? This is not even funny. So how do you control that end of the aspect?
And I think that's why I think, the auto decline, some of the other features we're building, those are important. Those make life somewhat better for people. Yeah. But I think at the end of the day, the big learning that I've had is, do you care about me making your life a little easier? Do you care about me predicting your income better? Or do you want to make more money? And the answer is resoundingly the third. So what happens when you're throttled? The answer needs to be you have other opportunities. And I think that's how you make it so that drivers have more of a stake in this new version of the gig economy. If you can actually bring competition for time, guess what? It's harder for the platforms to throttle you. Guess what? That actually does drive up price, right? Yep. And I think that's why ParaWorks is such an important thing. And I think that's what makes us different than other people, is really what can we do to get you as many good opportunities in front of you? Because the only way to beat or push back on market-driven marketplaces is through market forces. And the way to get those market forces is by finding more opportunities for people.
Right.
So
I mean, Steve has been involved in the gig economy for a while too. And you probably would agree with this. Look, I mean, so many apps now. There's an app for everything these days, right? So from dog walking to anything else, right? Yeah. So if you have all these apps, and if you had ParaWorks, let's say, that's kind of figuring out where you should be, when you should be, it takes the legwork out of it and the thought process. Because most people don't like it. They just want the easy money. But also, to me, the important thing is, the gig economy is like you have to work when and where there is demand. And we know there is no demand at 7 to 9 a.m., but there is super high demand for rideshare. So maybe, then the ParaWorks will say, okay, hey, man, you got to go do the Lyft now with this trip, with your filter. So you are so correct by saying that the hour is the most important thing in your life. That's 60 minutes. How can I make the most amount of money in the least amount of time?
And I'd like to interject too on this, if I can, because before we move too forward, I want to say something about ParaWorks, give you an example. But I also want to say to David that the flagging app, yes, the positives were a great thing, but people love flagging apartment buildings too, with 4th story deliveries that call for 8 cases of water. They flag that as no way. Do not give me this again. But I want to move into ParaWorks and say that something that's already proven successful, is just one example, is out in California. There's smaller companies that maybe have the end of an aisle in a supermarket, and they've got a 4x4 display case of tortillas, whatever, but it's a small inventory count. It doesn't actually call for a manager or a territory manager. So if the items could be counted, if the items could be replaced, and the look could be cleaned up, and a picture could be taken, you are actually able to add $8 to $12 to an Instacart order while you're at the store. Basically, that's probably paying you the same amount, $8 to $12 for an hour shop, for an extra 6 minutes while you're in the store.
Yeah,
and you're in that same store. I mean, these are just examples of optimizing the time.
Yeah. So let's switch gears for a second. And I know is near and dear to David's heart and yours as well, Steve. We can talk about driverrights.org. So what they are, what it is, where we are when it comes to that. I know you've been collecting signatures, so where things are at with that.
Yeah, thanks for putting that up. I think this had started off as a change.org petition to try and get attention, right? So I think we have over 68,000 people who've signed this petition, which has been great. But now we're moving into sort of the next step here, which is actually formalizing an official ask. And I think it goes back to what we were all saying earlier, which is the idea of you can't have your cake and not eat it, right? So you basically, let's actually define what it means to be an independent contractors and fight for platforms to honor those obligations. So have all the information you need to take your trip. You should be able to use the tools you want to run your business. You should have a say in the system, et cetera, et cetera. And I think really where we are right now is we have, people who've signed the petition. That's helped us get the attention of some policymakers and sort of governors, policymakers, et cetera. And where we are right now is through the end of the year, what I'm trying to do is write basically sort of a Bill of Rights that we're going to open up for people to be able to leave comments and just put their thoughts in there and just basically say, this is what it means to be an independent contractor. And from there, we're then going to go to the states and go to the places where the platforms are currently fighting politically and try to give a voice to what we believe is what, 70% of gig workers agree on, essentially. So I think that's what we're trying to do here.
That's great. Yeah. Now, we had Rideshare Drivers United a couple of weeks ago with, for me, I mean, I don't know if Steve, you watched that or not. Yeah. I think David is too busy to watch these things, but we had Rideshare Drivers United, which are a strong group of people. They're not a union yet, but they're based out of LA with about 20,000 members. And they practically are saying pretty much what you were saying on the driverrights.org. And then we had a Seattle driver who is also a union member up there. And what happened is that the legislatures, the drivers, and Uber and Lyft sat down and created this model, which I think could be really duplicated. I don't know if you're familiar with the Seattle or state of Washington model, David. They have the highest rates.
I don't know the details super well, but I know.
Yeah, they have the highest rates when it comes to miles and minutes in the country. So I'll give you a quick example. So their rates as of January 1 is going to be $1.50 a mile for a ride share and 65 cents a minute. In Los Angeles, our rates are 60 cents a minute and 60 cents a mile and 21 cents a minute. Then they got a whole bunch of other rights, unjust deactivation, huh?
That's before upfront fares. Now time and distance becomes irrelevant.
But I'm going to talk about what Dara said during the conference call. He literally said that they're kind of based on time, miles and minutes. So I was like, wow, really? Yeah. But long story short, they came to an agreement, and I think it was a win-win-win. Customers are paying higher fares, drivers are making money hand over fist. They have about 80% of employment rights. Then they stayed independent contractors, which 70% of the gig workers want. So I'm going like city by city, state by state, maybe most likely state by state. This thing could be duplicated, not for every city, obviously, because every city's cost of living expenses are different. But I think there is a happy medium because we don't want, you don't want Uber and Lyft and DoorDash and Instacart to go out of business, right? Because if they do, millions and millions of people are going to lose their livelihood, right? Yeah. And to me, it's like, that's the most important thing, that we got to come to some sort of an agreement with these companies as opposed to this Prop 22 bullshit. Yep. AB5. Well, I'm going to call AB5 bullshit too, Steve. So I don't know. I don't think
thank you. Okay, I fully support that.
Yeah,
I really agree, and I think now really is the time, right? So now that the platforms are fighting in multiple states on AB5 versus Prop 22 style issues, now is the time where you have the leverage to be able to say, look, we agree on your stance that most drivers want to be independent contractors, but honor what that means. Yep. Right. And I think that's really the path we're trying to take, is I don't hate these platforms, right? I just think that they can do things better. I used to work at one. I know what it's like to run one. I know their life is hard. It's not that easy to build what they've built. But, things have changed over the last couple of years, and there's just a better way to do things.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Yep. So while you mentioned that, if you don't mind, give us some couple of anecdotes from your time at Uber for a year and a half. They don't have to be funny or whatever, but like what your working experience was like. Were they putting you through 18-hour work days? And to me, it's like, it's fascinating to have an insider that can speak about these things.
To be honest, it was one of these amazing moments for me, because I was 24 at the time, and I had just started my first week there. And in that first week, we were going to launch the airport while I was there, and we were supposed to do a price cut while I was there on the first week.
Yeah.
And we were supposed to strike all these deals with the casinos for pickup and drop-off locations. And this was back then when the only pickup and drop-off software was the airport software, but the Strip was effectively 45 airports all in one location. So it was a whole mess there. And I just remember having this moment where I turned to the team that had hired me and said, look, I'm like 2 days into the job and you want me to do all of these things. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing, right? I mean, I'm 2 days in. What do you want me to do? And I think there was this sort of empowering moment where I was told, look, if we hired you because we trust you, do whatever you think is best. If you didn't do your research and you made an uninformed decision, we will fire you. But if you have a reason to why you do something and it makes sense and you do the analysis, do what you want to, essentially. And I think to me, that was sort of this really empowering experience when I was that age, because I'd worked in jobs beforehand where people just don't trust somebody that age.
Yeah.
At the same time, that's also the problem with the company, is when you have 1,000 24-year-olds who are doing whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
At some point, that doesn't really work, does it? Right?
Yeah. Too many headless chickens in there. But it's. But you built the Vegas operations, right? Ultimately.
We did. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it must have been interesting times. I mean,
it was just crazy because they have sort of CES that would come to town, so you'd have 200,000 people all there for a conference. You'd have EDC that was an hour out into the desert that ends at 7 a.m. in the morning. How do you set that up? And the craziest one to me was always just the Las Vegas Strip. Yeah. Getting a bunch of drunk people to find their way to the back of the car park lot to find the right driver. And guess what? It's also Uber pool. So you need to get 3 drunk people all to show up at the same time at the back. And I think a lot of my craziest experiences were just trying out Uber pool as a driver at 3 a.m. on the Las Vegas Strip. I'm sure you all know that, but you see the craziest stuff. You
tasted your own medicine then. You tasted your own medicine, because I say this all the time. I think from Dara all the way down to everybody mandatorily should get out there and drive for a week every year to feel what the drivers feel, because I do it. I mean, I still drive. I know what I'm doing out there, but then I don't think these execs care. They go like, hey, yeah, there's a Uber driver. I'm like, no, bro, I'm dealing with a lot of garbage out here, so you need to come out, because the algo you wrote is torturing my ass. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And come get some of your own medicine, and then maybe the disconnect that exists today in rideshare between driver communities and the top guys or coders at Uber is as wide as ever it's been. Ever.
I think also it's like you can't just go and do one trip every couple months. Going and doing one trip doesn't mean anything. You know what I think they should do? And this is something that I actually ran this experiment with my sort of a team when they were here in person, which is you're going to go out and you're going to drive for a couple hours today, but what you eat as a team for lunch and dinner can only be paid out of the earnings you make. Like, you need to have someone have a financial stake in the driving, right? Because saying, hey, I did one trip and I took, you don't feel the pressure of having to take the right trip. You don't feel the pressure of, if the trip went 30 minutes over for food delivery, why that was a bad thing.
Yep.
So I agree very much with you, but I think it needs to go further.
Absolutely.
Am I the only one picturing that? I know Chris is maybe a little bit. Am I the only one picturing here that if this happened, it's like the next Purge movie? I mean,
well,
you can't just put these there's executive day. We're gonna have like a holiday, and that there's a
imagine the door, you get a knock on the door, and then it's there delivering my burger. I'd be like, yeah, buddy, come on in, have a drink with me.
We gotta have a little chat there, DK.
What would you do?
Come on in, buddy. Sorry, go ahead, David.
That's like, Chris, what would you do if that happened?
Oh, geez. If honestly, I don't know. I mean, like, it would be good if they did that, because then, I mean, the whole thing is too, one of the things that we say to provide better service as a driver, take some rides so you know what it's like to be on the other end of it. You're the passenger. So for these execs, for these workers, especially those that in your situation where you're like, you have to do this and come up with a plan, and we don't care what you're doing, but as long as you have the reasons and the opinions why you're doing it, and the backup to be able to prove that it's good or bad or whatever it might be, that just gives you, like you said, you have 1,000 other 24-year-olds or 1,000 other coders who are kind of coming up with their own thing, doing their own thing. But how do they know what it's like for the particular drivers that they're affecting? So yeah, they should probably be out there testing exactly what they're doing and have that real firsthand knowledge in order to know, is this going to make a driver's life easier? Is this going to make the algorithm better? Is this going to make the service better overall? If you can get all of those answered as a positive, then yeah, then it's probably a good thing, or something should be implemented at that point. But if you go in there and you say, hey, look, I tried it out, something was wrong with it, I don't know what, but then you could go back to the drawing board and maybe adjust a few things to make sure it's properly working, versus just, oh, here we go, here's the rollout, and there's that.
Yeah. I also think there's a big difference between like knowing a problem and feeling a problem. Right? Like, when you think about a reason as to why it's annoying, that's just intellectual, right? But like until you feel like personally affronted, like it's just not the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just not.
David, there is this huge belief in the driver community that we are just numbers. Nobody gives a shit. Okay, one comes, 10 more are ready to replace him, right? And that's been the Ubers, and Lyfts, and every one of these gig companies' attitude, right? Everybody's replaceable. I'll deactivate you for whatever reason I want, and there's no recourse most of the time. I mean, right? And that's where I see look, I think the gig economy is great, right? And it does wonderful things. And I've interviewed a whole bunch of people, and has given me new respect about the gig economy, because there are people busting their asses, feeding their families, doing, making money at their own time, right? We don't want this to go away, but also the disconnect that exists between the C-suites, and the coders and these drivers is so wide that Uber does good things, Lyft does decent things, and DoorDash may have done decent things. I don't know if any, but the problem is their perception is so bad. The way they put things out is so bad that I'm shocked that their PR departments do such a horrible job of putting out like, okay, the biggest thing that has happened the last 2 months in Uber world, Uberland, is upfront destination. People are even complaining about upfront destination. I'm going like, what is there to complain about upfront destination, man? You're seeing where you're going. That's what you wanted. They gave it to you. Now you're complaining again. So the thing is,
on those
perception of Uber is so shady.
Just the fare itself.
Yeah, the fare, but still, there has to be, maybe there is some exchange, right? But the perception is so bad that these companies are shady, they're evil, they're corrupt. They're all these wonderful worlds I can put together, and I'm going like, they're not. Like, if you were at Uber, if I was Uber, man, I would be doing the same shit that they're doing today. Okay, I have my opinion of what I need to do is diametrically opposed to what the driver wants. Driver wants more money. Uber goes, I got to charge more and pay less. How do I figure that out? I
really believe it's sort of viewing it from the wrong angle. Right? I can give you a story from when I was there. So when I was there, I did a lot of driver incentives, right? So we did stuff from, do X trips to get Y payout. We experimented with almost like a lottery where every trip you'd get a ticket and somebody would win $20,000 a week, right? That was always a fun phone call to make. I'd call someone and be like, hey, you got $20,000. And, that was always nice. We ended up not doing that because it ended up being the best performing incentive and everybody loved it. But frankly, only 3 people would get $20,000. And before that, we were spending $200,000 a week on incentives. So it was one of those where we saved a lot of money, but that didn't feel right. But we did a lot of these large scale driver incentives. And for me, I was sitting there on a computer crunching numbers in Excel. To me, it was sort of like running a bunch of tests to determine what made the most sense, right? And when I was in the process of leaving Uber, some driver reached out to me and said, yo, like, I felt like I was being played guinea pig with. I'd done many more trips than my friend, but my friend was getting incentives that were 3 times more than mine. Every week we felt like we were being jerked around with, like, what was going on? I'm like, wow, I guess I just never really thought about it that way. Yeah. For me, I was just running a large scale experiment, tweaking a bunch of numbers to try and get an outcome. And I just never really thought about this other perspective, right? Yeah. And I think really that's the same thing when I go back to the DoorDash situation. It's almost exactly the same thing. We're tweaking a bunch of things to try and balance the marketplace, but you're completely missing the main viewpoint into it.
Yeah, because all these execs, all these coders, and including you, I'm sure you're a software engineer, right? So they enjoy their services as consumers very much, but they don't know that if there is no drivers, you're not getting your burrito. Nobody's taking you to LAX. Nobody's doing any of this for you. So I think that's what the disconnect is, that these guys still think the gig economy will survive without drivers. I call biggest bullshit on that on the planet. Yeah. There is no drivers. There's no gig economy. Please treat these people with more respect and potentially more earnings. But the thing is that disconnect is as wide as ever. And I don't know why. I don't know why that still exists.
And I think that's really why what we're doing here is, these sort of integrations to the platforms without their permission is ideally the platforms would do this and allow people to build their own settings and have a way for them to do that. But really, I think that's what ties together a lot of what we're doing at Para and the Driver's Right thing is doing these things is a fundamental right. And be it officially or unofficially, we will do what we can to help people be able to do this.
Fight fire with fire. Fight fire with fire right there. I'm telling you, man, but I don't know. I mean, I can spend all day with you, but I'm sure you're a busy man. So where can we download Para? What is it on Android, iOS?
It's on Android, it's on iOS with para.com. If you search up Para also in the App Store, it took a while, but it should be the number 1 or number 2 there. If you search it on the App Store and it shows up now. And same thing, I'm always happy to hear from listeners. So if you ever just want to shoot me a note, it will take me a while to get back, but I generally will. Sort of david@withpara.com. I just want to take this chance really quickly, just rib Steve a little bit.
Go ahead.
So the last advice I also had for some of these platforms is like, listen to people who complain or yell. Because when people complain or yell, it's because they care. And they want things to be better. If people didn't care, they would just stop it. And I say that sort of as a joke because how I met Steve was we built this unemployment tracker that was online. And this guy wrote to me, he's like, hey, your unemployment tracker is wrong. It's crap. Right? I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, this is wrong. I'm like, okay. And then a couple hours later, he's like, this is wrong. This is out of date. Like, your thing is shit. Right? And then I'm just like, okay, this is sort of annoying. What's going on? And then, over the course of a couple of days, this guy kept telling me everything was wrong. And at that point, I was like, hey, do you want to help me work on it? And he's like, yeah. And he took it and he ran. And that's how I met Steve, right? And we've been working together on things ever since.
Yeah, that's my story with Harry. That's how I did it. Remember, I told you that, right, Steve? Because I was the biggest pain in Harry's ass, the founder of RideShare Guy, for a year or two. And I was like, hey, this is crap. What you wrote is not factual. It's garbage. You people don't even drive. What do you know about any of this? He goes, man, we can't keep doing this. You know what I'm saying? Ultimately, now we're working together. But no, great relationships start all that way, adversarial. But then now you're on the same team. And I mean, so for everybody, I mean, we'll put everything in the show notes, links, to your the App Store or whatever we need to do. We'll do it for you. And ultimately, I think it's a great thing that you're working on. And I have zero doubt that you're going to be successful, as long as I know you raised some funds. So hopefully, we can fight these guys with a little bit more fire than you did before. One other thing that I know I read about, which may or may not be true, but I'll take your input before you go, is, a lot of on internet. I'm learning this internet thing. I've been only doing this for 6 months, and I'm already sick of the internet. You know what I'm saying? So I like writing. I like writing and reading as opposed to watching things. But people's attention spans are zero these days. They're down to 15 seconds of a TikTok video. I'm like, garbage. but call me old world. I've read a lot about, people getting deactivated off of DoorDash because they use Para. And you've been pretty straight up about it, right? And then so is that true? Is that a potential possibility? Or because this is people's livelihood, right? I mean, we always suggest don't do one app, do multi-apping. So if you lose one for some reason, you can have 5 other ones that you can depend on. So what's happening with that situation?
So very clear on our end. We've always been upfront saying that this may be a violation of the terms of service.
Okay.
Then again, DoorDash can selectively decide what they want to enforce on the terms of service. And we also believe that that's an unfair terms of service. But to be very clear, we take every single one of these reports super seriously. Every single one that has ever been flagged or brought to our attention, we have investigated deeply with, back and forth. And to my knowledge, nobody has been deactivated for using Para on DoorDash. We've had people who've written in who've had accounts suspended for other reasons. But then again, what happens is people follow up and the account gets reactivated. And it's usually not because of Para. We've noticed a couple things. Generally, if you have multiple phone numbers or accounts under multiple phone numbers, that's caused a lot of issues. We've seen some issues with sort of like Uber and Uber Black accounts, if you've had sort of a legacy account, etc. But as far as I can tell, and we've looked into every single one of these, Para hasn't been the reason anyone's been deactivated. I think it's just a nature of 270,000 people have used the system. Some people get deactivated. And if you happen to have used Para, I understand why you'd be a bit skeptical that it's us, but that you think we would have caused it. But as far as I'm aware, nothing has happened. And I do want to go back to what I said earlier, which is I don't think the platforms would, because I think that just isn't smart on their end, right? If they were to go and start deactivating people for using something like this, it goes back to are you really then an independent contractor if I can't use the tool I want to run my business?
But let's be honest, they deactivate the wrong people on a checker background check.
Yeah.
It's not even the right person.
Yeah.
That's
happening.
Your deactivation chances are just a roll of the dice.
My DoorDash account got deactivated 3 months ago, and I was like, man, they finally caught me. I mean, my email's on david@withpara.com on it, so I'm shocked they didn't catch me until now. But what happened was I wrote to them. I'm like, hey, I got deactivated. I challenged it, and they're like, oh, sorry, this was a mistake. Your account's back, right? And I hadn't even done a trip with DoorDash for a while, right? So I'm just like, I don't understand. So
so I thank you for coming on. If you guys want to stick around, so Steve, we got to talk to you a few minutes. So tell us about all the stuff you do, your podcast, the radio stuff that you do. I know you interviewed Harry. I left you alone on that one, right? I didn't take you down on that one. You know that one, right? I think he's frozen now. Hold on a second. Is he frozen?
Right at his moment.
Right when his time's wrong. Right. This is so bad, Steve. This is just bad. Okay, we'll just talk to David.
You know what? How about this? Let's go into the one topic that, David, we wanted to actually bring you on and talk about. And hopefully then Steve will either be fixed, come back, or the glitch in the matrix will be okay. So, all
right.
We'll move there. So right now, we have a decentralized platform that is coming out. So the Uber of Web3, which is Decentralized Engineering Corporation, or DEC, is coming up with this thing called Trip. And not Trip, the other one that we know and have heard about but haven't in quite a while. This is a different thing. This is the Rideshare Protocol, is what it's supposed to be for. So Sergio, if you want to talk about this, because I know you were looking at this.
Do you have time to hang on, David, or do you?
Yeah, I got a couple of minutes here. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I read this. I thought this was fascinating to me. Right. I mean, I'm a huge believer of the blockchain. I know it's been used for some nefarious stuff, but hey, everybody has their pains when they're growing up, right? And the fiat currency that is the US dollar, I think, is garbage, and people just made toilet paper out of it, although it's very strong around the world these days because the other currencies are more garbage than the US dollar is. My opinion only, again. So these people were also at Uber, right? So they raised 9 million, which is nothing, right? If they raised like 900 million, then I'd be like, okay, now we can compete. The reason I think nobody has challenged Uber or Lyft in the rideshare world. I mean, globally, they have DDs and, all these other companies have challenged it, but not in the US. The reason for that is barriers to entry is very, very expensive, right? I mean, it's just, look, tomorrow I can create a rideshare app. I can get all the drivers I want because all the drivers are so sick of the way they're being treated anyway. But the problem is getting the passengers on, right? How do we do the marketing? All the billions you guys spent while you were Uber to get them, underpriced, use the VC money, subsidize Fantasyland, all that good stuff, right? So to me, this, I think, a peer-to-peer, getting rid of Uber as the middleman, I think is something that's doable. And it's on the Solana network. I don't know if you follow, obviously you must, but blockchain technology or different networks like Ethereum or whatever. And to me, this should have been done a while ago. But I think this may be the first shot across the bow of these two companies. As far as rideshare is concerned, what do you think about this? Do you think this is doable? Do you think this is any
think
future?
The direction is good. The question I have is, blockchain is just the technology, right?
Right.
So the question is, what will they offer that is compelling to either the riders or the drivers involved, right? Like, is this going to be at the same price? Is it they're not going to take a cut? And I think where I really view it is, if you're focused on the customers, you can say the customer wants to pay less and the driver wants you to take less of a cut. But for a lot of customers, there's an expectation of customer support. There's an expectation of, some sort of managed layer of services that still comes. So really, I think that's sort of the bet we're making here at Para, is that where the change needs to happen is by giving the drivers that ability to write back to the system.
Right.
So what I view it as, what we're trying to do is call it some sort of stepping stone between what you have now to this fully decentralized world. So I guess without knowing too much about the details, I support the direction. I just don't know if this will cause any meaningful change in the short term.
Yeah, short term, I don't think I agree with you. I don't think short term anything is going to happen. But I've said this 2 years ago. Actually, I wrote an article. Disruptors will get disrupted one day because somebody's going to figure out a better mousetrap and put it out there. Like Chris correctly said, Trip, the other Trip, TRYP, ended up being a multi-level marketing scheme. There's another one around the country now, which is called Empower. They're trying to get it off the ground, but you need billions and billions of dollars. The only reason Uber and Lyft are here or DoorDash is here because they had the VC money, right? All those billions, right? If you don't have those with $9 million, I think it's chump change. I think that's like 2 weeks of expenditure. So, but at some point, the P2P without a middleman, I think is a workable idea. I think getting rid of, why should Uber take half of what the passenger pays? That way you can lower the fare, passenger pays less and driver keeps all of it. You just created the transaction on the blockchain. I think it's a doable idea. But, I'm sure it will have a lot of growing pains. Steve, we lost you, right when you were about to, you froze, right? So, I was asking you, tell us about your podcast, all the multi things that you do, your radio show that you do, where people can find you, because, we've known each other for a while now, and I did one of your podcasts. So, and tell us all about that.
Yeah, sure. So I've been doing a website for coming up on 6 years now, and I'm not going to say its name because you can just go to ridesharerodeo.com now, and that will redirect you to there. And I'm kind of rebuilding that. So just if you don't pay attention to the landing page name because it makes it sound too much rideshare. But so ridesharerodeo.com will take you there. You can get to all the podcasts. You can go to any podcast player. I seem to cover a different genre than a lot of the other creators. I'll talk about things like Curry and other apps that work for me, Shipped, and I'll do my experiences, but my channel isn't ride-alongs or vlogs or this or that. I do a lot of more deep dive pieces looking into why and what is coming down the pipe. So like I'm always the person trying to foresee the future a little more, but not just guess fully, like throw darts at it, but more take the pieces that I'm getting and collectively put them together and say, hey, this is only going to be this, and then I confirm it with other people. So there's a lot of, on my channel, I feel like there's a lot of different content you might get. There's a lot of pieces on independent contractorship on different platforms, problems we found with DoorDash, just anything. But it's not all negative. It's not all positive. It's a different type of channel, but it definitely belongs in the gig space.
100%. But I watch your channel. Obviously, you're like the more adult version of the gig tubers, right? They're all these funny little things, little clickbaity things, and they get into pissing races, top dashers, side dashers, whatever. But in the bigger picture, it's not really that important. You guys got to support each other and have one voice to fight these, behemoths. I mean, otherwise, and then now you have a guy like David creating an app that kind of maximizes your every living minute while you're on these apps. Then, hey, all power to you guys. But I feel like you and us are the adult version of the gig economy. As opposed to
if we lose our independent contractor rates, there's none of these other channels matter at all.
Yeah, nothing matters. Yeah, because that IC thing, I don't know. I think that's going to be put to a test because
me too, and it's gonna take a while for everything to. It's not gonna. It could. You can look at it all different kinds of ways, but nonetheless, I feel like that's my channel. It's not like a trying to scare you tactic, but it is some realities of what's coming down the road.
Yeah, you talk a lot about legislature that's in the pipe. You talk about, which is valid things, man. Politicians, still rule the country, and they may do some weird shit.
What I love Steve does too is like you've brought on people who take the opposing side to argument, right? Yeah. Even on the sort of IC, full-time employee type on your channel, you've brought on people to have a reasonable debate with.
Yep.
Right. I'm still like everybody still questions how I had Vina Dubal for an hour one-on-one.
And you guys are both alive after that interview?
Yeah, man. We just didn't see eye to eye on things, but we talked. That's what adults do. They talk.
I've had her too, and she's, she has her own point of view, and
you and I don't see eye to eye with her. But it's an adult discussion though.
Absolutely.
There's things to be taken away from that discussion. So
absolutely. Look, voices have to be heard on both sides. There's no point in shutting voices down. I mean, you can call me all the names in the world. If you have a valid point, I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to change my mind. I'm not going to sit here and just bang the drum saying that, oh, this is the worst. I'm like, no. And I used to be more negative on the gig economy. I think the gig economy is a great tool for people to better their lives and make some money toward working towards a plan B or whatever they are, or some full-timers who do it full-time, grind it out, make money, whatever they do. Hopefully they're saving their money. But I think overall, it's a wonderful space to be involved in. And David, I can't thank you enough for coming on. I could talk to you for like another 3 days, but I know you have these two evil empires to fight.
No, I appreciate that.
See, I'm not worried about calling him evil empire because I've been doing that for 5 years. I go, Uber is the evil empire, Lyft is a dysfunctional little sister. I go, there you go. I'm like, okay. So if Uber is watching this, I love you guys, because you present all these opportunities, because I interviewed one of the Uber top guys 4 days ago. I'm like, hey man, we'll have like a relationship here. We got to give and take a little bit. Not everything is great in Uberland, but not everything is awful in Uberland as well. You know what I mean? So.
No, I agree. Just thank you so much for having me, and I'll take you up on that offer to talk 3 days at some other point. So
yeah, let's do it.
Take care.
That was good.
Take care. All right, Steve. So I hope you stay on. If you want to stay on, you're more than welcome to stay on. And now we're going to do our usual song and dance and talk about these wonderful things. And if you want to leave, whatever you want. But as long as you stay, I want your input in some of these things. I know you don't. Do you drive quite a bit these days or no? Like, do you do rideshare?
I have not gone back to rideshare, but my reasons are no longer pandemic reasons. It's more that I have to have better pay offers because I have other apps I work that pay me better.
Yep.
I'm about the money. I don't care. When you're doing gig work, the work is the work.
Yep.
Like some people are like, yeah, but with Curry, you got to lift stuff. And okay, but I'm willing to lift stuff for 3 times the pay. So I just
exactly.
I'm sorry, that's the difference. So
exactly. I 100% agree with you. Everybody wants today, open my mouth, put the food in there. I'm like, it's not going to work like that. You got to do some work eventually, man. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
yeah. So I'm all about like this show. Show me the money. That's what I'm going to follow. I'm going to follow that money.
100%.
If an app comes around that pays me 3 times Curry, I'm gone from Curry.
Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you got to go where it's showing you the money. And if rideshares, food delivery is one thing. Rideshare, but for the most part, will pay you better, like order, ride to ride when you compare it that way. But there are other apps out there where you can make a lot more money. And if you want to invest your time into that because you are going to get a bigger return, that's where you should go. You shouldn't be stuck in this cycle of going to, turning on your DoorDash app, no orders coming on, turning on rideshare, whether that's Uber and Lyft, and then trying to make a buck that way. But yet, like you say, Curry, if it's paying you 3 times more, you go there. That's where the money's at. That's where you should be. And then you put on these apps during the slow times when you're not getting the 3 times the pay. So you can still offset some of that dead time.
Yeah. But I think Para is doing the right thing, right? I mean, it's like that's like an encyclopedia of the apps. They go like, hey man, this is where the money is right now, but in half hour from now, this maybe not be where the money is, and this is where the money is. And human brain is not set up that way because we're like, we like comfort. We don't like change. So if you're gonna do the gig world, bro, you got to change a lot. You got to change a lot. There's like 50 apps out there. Some are small, some are coming up, whatever they are. It's not just Yes, rideshare is the largest one, and delivery is the largest 2 parts of the gig economy. We're not going to deny that. But, there's other services that you can just log on and make money with while you're suffering with Uber and Lyft or DoorDash, all that garbage that they play with. So I'm like,
I've spent hours on the phone with David every single week since the pandemic started. And the fact that, I got to say, it's probably none of us have a story from the first month of the pandemic of, hey, I got this one really cool thing that happened.
Yeah.
No, but I can honestly say that I had one. I had the fact that I met David and that we clicked and we just got to know each other before all this happened. So
yeah, thank you for facilitating that, bringing him on. I appreciate it. I owe you one. So because I wanted to have him for a while, and but you have the contact, so I'm like, hey, you played the agent on that one. You get your 10%. You get your 10% and nothing like that. maybe Harry will send you a sticker.
Yeah. I already got a hat, so.
Okay. Oh shit! You're way ahead of the game, bro. You're way ahead of the game. Yeah.
Polo.
So all right, let's get into the shit show.
Okay.
After David is like, what am I doing?
Well, let's just start with the big news of today. And everybody watching might think it's the Uber Pro rewards. We're getting to that. Trust me, we're getting to that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There was a comment. Mr. Gambit says 1,800 trips for 6. No, it's not 1,800 trips. 1,800 points, Mr. Gambit. I got the same thing. I'm platinum, first time ever in my career.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. We'll get all into this in a minute. So this is just a side. This is just a little teaser. When it comes to that, amounts may vary. So you might get 600. Another person I've seen only is getting 350. There's others that are getting 250. So I've already seen a number of different numbers and stats already.
I got 600, bro. I got 600.
There's different areas.
Sorry, I didn't get 600. I got nothing.
You got nothing. You got a year to do it.
Yeah, that's bullshit. Bullshit.
So, it basically comes down. Read the fine print, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But the other news that's going on, Uber's earnings.
Yes.
Morning.
There's my notes. I listened to the conference call twice. I'm gonna do this fast, so listen up. This is Wall Street 101. Uber reported another loss, $1.2 billion they lost. $512 million came from equity investments in Didi. They sold Zomato for a huge loss. They hold on to these other companies because when they exited China and Russia, they ended up taking stakes in these companies, and we know what's happening to those companies, so they're just losing their asses on that. But at some point, they're going to write these things down to zero. Then there is no more loss. But the other big part that's not in here that I came out of the conference call, which I talked to a couple of analysts about, is they have $486 million for stock options for their executives. And that's Adam those two and a couple $100 million in other stuff. They came up with a $1.2 billion loss. However, business is performing, engine is hitting on all cylinders. Mobility is doing great. Delivery is doing great. Uber One is getting major traction. Now, this is from Dara. Okay, he's always very positive, great salesman, whatever. But the proof is in the pudding. The stock was up 14% today on a down day. Look, I think Uber will be free cash flow positive, which they are quite a bit at the moment. This EBITDA stuff will go away. If everything continues and the macroeconomics don't get into the situation, meaning inflation doesn't hurt people's pockets, they stop spending on burritos and $30 3-mile trips, shit's gonna hit the fan. Otherwise, at the moment, this engine is primed and is hitting on all cylinders. Gross bookings were up, revenues were up, even the driver earnings were up. Dara said on active hour, average driver earnings in the US is $36 an hour. You all can go listen to the conference call free. It's on the website, on the Uber investment website. He said that again, 36. He said 36 per active hour. That includes tips and incentives, people. And that's active hour. That means engaged hour in Lyft world. That means, you know what that means, right? So, stock, company is hitting on all cylinders. Everything is going wonderfully well, barring a slowdown in the economy, a recession, because none of these companies had faced a recession. So here's the notes I took. The 36 hour I told you guys about. He said pickup ETAs are down to 6 minutes as well, and surge is also going down. For Uber, that's a good thing. For drivers, that's a horrible thing. The reason for that is happening, he said there is more drivers on their platforms than ever before. Their attrition rate is going down. They're sticking around more. They're working more because, again, the macro economy is hurting people, obviously inflation, and they're out there driving to make a couple $100 extra bucks to put food on the table, and they're doing it. So actually, that part of the economy is helping Uber with driver supply. They have no problem with driver supply. So therefore, they're cutting the incentives as well because they don't have to pay, higher costs for people to get out because they have plenty of drivers. Upfront front destination is having great success, he said. I'm like, of course it does. Of course it does. They hit on the fuel surcharge. He said fuel surcharge staying for the time being, unlike Lyft. He even mentioned Lyft. And he said, we're going to keep it. And I think, we are the chosen platform. He said that too. And you know what? I agree with him. You have upfront destination. Okay, forget upfront fares. We'll talk about that next week. Upfront destination. Lyft doesn't have it. Why the heck would I drive for Lyft? Unless I'm platinum or some other diamond or whatever the heck I am. Uber is giving it to you for free.
Money with stay in the area.
Huh?
I said, or if they're showing you the money and you use that stay within area filter.
Yeah, that thing is gold. Okay, well, we'll talk about that next week. And then, so he says retention is at an all-time high. Onboarding, they're constantly onboarding new drivers with less cost because of the macro economy. People have to make more money. So they are, we call it oversaturation or flooding the market. They're not doing it on purpose. They don't need more drivers. It's just about people are signing up right and left because barriers to entry is easy. And people need to make more money because their W-2s are not paying enough. And here is the big one. Two analysts asked them about the double algo. Okay? One of the analysts I consult for. And he had the balls to go, hey, Dara, he goes, what about's happening with the algorithm on the upfront destinations? This is Dara's answer. I wrote it down. He goes, we got rid of minutes and miles and minutes, and he goes, there are 4 things, he said, that are figuring into the pricing. He said the same thing, by the way, Chris. He goes, we have to price trips correctly if we don't want people to decline trips. He said UFD is calculating the out of the 60 things that are in that black box algo, the 4 most important ones that get the weight of a pricing of a trip. He said, how many drivers are in the area? So that's what number one thing that the algo is looking at. So with the macroeconomics and every, 8 drivers at every corner, right? So the algo is looking at it like, I'm not going to price this too high because there are 8 drivers. If one doesn't take it, the other one's going to take it. That's number one. Number 2, how many drivers are at destination? Okay, that's the number 2 that the algo is looking at. The distance and duration of the pickup. It says the algo is going to price a ride lower if you're only picking up half a mile away, 3 minutes away, versus if it was 5 miles away and 15 minutes away. So those trips are the algo is going to price higher. I'm not buying that. And the last thing he says, we're going to price trips higher if we think this driver is going to suffer a lot of dead miles coming back from a trip, which I knew was a lie because we know on longer trips now, Uber is paying 20 to 30% less, right? all these trips that we see, 130 miles for $80 and shit like that, right? So, but nobody challenged him on that, but they at least asked him that question. So bottom line, Uber is doing fantastically well. They're not getting the fuel surcharge yet, so people relax. Mobility bookings are up, delivery gross bookings are up, revenues are up, and lastly, Uber put $10.8 billion into drivers' pockets. They call it earners in the last quarter. And that money went into the economy, because people put that in their bank accounts and went and bought food and paid their rent, and all kinds of good things happened because that was $10.8 billion with a B. And Uber did 1.95 billion trips last quarter, up from 1.875 billion where we did our Uber math, Chris. Remember that one? Nickel and dime business?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, how much is an extra dime that they take with 1.95 billion?
On 1.95, it's 195 million now.
$195 million extra just by by diming your drivers.
Diming, baby, diming. So everything is wonderful, Uberland. No worries. Stock has responded. The executives were very happy the way the company is performing. And, it was like a good call. I listened to it twice. I wish they had asked some other questions, but of course, they have to be polite. They can't ask any of that stuff. So there you go.
This is on the investor side of things. So if you're an investor, you're happy. If you're a driver, you're not going to be so happy.
Not happy. Not happy.
For me personally, over the last 3 weeks, I've noticed each week, every single time, those two different promotions that come in, your weekday and your weekend quests, they're just dropping. Like the one I have right now, you're getting $1 extra, which is what it used to be like a few months ago. Then it started rising again.
Garbage.
And they were giving some extra bonuses on top of that. So they've completely did away with it. I mean, obviously Halloween weekend was this past weekend, and
it wasn't good, Chris. It was the worst Halloween. It was the worst Halloween.
It was bad.
I only drove on Saturday. Huh?
It depends on where you were, because certain places where you are, the different parties going on. If you add the mix like DoorDash or Uber Eats into it, you could have gotten out there and made some money.
I only drove on Saturday. Last year I made $65 an hour on Uber, and this year I didn't even turn my Uber app on because Lyft was showing me the money, right? But the 1.95 billion trips, people, you got to respect that. Okay, they squeeze 1.95 billion trips into their system. That's insane amount of trips. What do you say, Steve? What do you think? The company is doing well.
I think the company's doing well. I think globally they're going to do well. I don't see them back, and I don't know where Lyft is now. I really don't. I really don't.
One trick pony.
I mean, it's nice that they're still around just to pretend like they're competing, but
Chris, by the way, I got an right after I sent all these to you, Chicago has upfront Lyft now, Orange County has upfront Lyft now, and San Francisco has upfront Lyft now. Overnight, they just showed up, so they're coming.
I think that's what you're gonna start seeing. I think they're just gonna start popping it up in different areas.
Yeah,
I don't know if they're gonna do it right on Monday morning when the new pay period starts, or if they're just gonna kind of do it like Uber did it on a Thursday. For their latest round, when you finally got the upfront fares, they did it at what, like 2 p.m. on a Thursday or something, where everyone in the morning is getting hold and like, you're lying to us. No, we didn't lie. You just gotta wait. They didn't say exactly when they were going to do it. They'll roll it out at time, but you're probably going to see Lyft doing the exact same thing. And I would probably put money on it that they'll have upfront pay in nearly all markets by the end of the year as well too. Because from what I've heard, Lyft hasn't been doing too well with Uber's upfront earnings, and that's kind of why they've been pushed to do it.
But you know what? The good thing is that though in LA, nobody's driving for Lyft. This upfront showed up, right? Because I call it UFT now, and I send people emails. UFT. He goes, what is UFT? He goes, upfront fares and destinations. So let's just make an acronym, UFT. But nobody's driving for Lyft, and Lyft is surging like shit. So I go like, oh, thanks. I'll just drive for Lyft now because it's surging, right? Because not too many, they don't have enough drivers. So I'm like, hey, I give Uber credit here. Man, think about the size of the system, Steve. 1.95 billion individual trips, bro, in 3 months.
I know.
That comes to 21 million trips a day.
I'm literally trying to remember that time when Lyft was in Canada and they were going to go to the UK. And then I was like, okay, now they'll get into food space and then grocery. And they didn't do any of it.
They can't do it. They don't have the manpower. They don't have the money. And I think the best and the brightest working at Uber, and they come up with all this stuff first and fast. They have the manpower, but look, Lyft is going to come. They're going to compete again. I think at some point Lyft is going to disappear. Uber has everything going for themselves, really. Deliveries is good. Rideshare is good. All they have to do is they ask them, how do you see those shit coming around the recession? They go, look, we do our channel checks. We don't see any slowdown. Everybody's paying for higher fares and everybody is enjoying the burritos. I'm like, hey, okay.
Did anybody break down on the earnings? Anything about the grocery space for Uber now? Corner shop?
It's coming up. Actually, they talked about that. So they said the deliveries are up about 10% from the existing Uber Eats and Uber Rideshare customers. So they're getting some traction. But they talk more about Uber One, which is their subscription service. And they said that's doing really well. They're up to 10 million members. FYI, the growth of MAU or MAPCs, they call it in the acronym world. MAU is monthly active users, or MAPC is monthly active paying customers. They're up to 124 million. U.S. adult population is about 165 million. If you took all the elderly and the kids out, babies out. So their scale have reached to pretty much 80% of the U.S. population who could use Uber for any service, right?
Right.
And the last quarter, they were at 122 million. This quarter, they're 124 million. So they gained a little bit on that. But now they said their purpose is top line is perfect. It's growing still. We just got to make sure we drop all that top line into our bottom line. And there comes your nickel business, nickel and dime business. A dime on each chip, baby. That's an extra billion a year. There you go. And they were very positive on Uber ads, by the way. They couldn't speak highly enough of it. That's going to bring in another $1 billion while you're fucking driving to the airport. You have to see, American Airlines advertising or some other advertising. You're going to LAX.
While you're flying Frontier.
Exactly.
Yeah, but when is Lyft's earnings coming out?
On the 7th. 7th. Okay. And DoorDash is Thursday.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see Lyft because Steve, you've said on your podcast a couple of times too. Like, I don't know where they're going to go. I think they're just going to get absorbed, whether it's DoorDash or somewhere else. I think they're going to end up being bought out.
But at this point, what's buying them out even mean? I mean, like, are you buying the database because everybody has that DoorDash has that database and then some.
But if DoorDash ever wanted to get into rideshare, maybe they could, because that's going to be an expansion for them. DoorDash is only delivery now, right? So if they want to get into it, I mean, their data is valuable. Company is only worth like $5 billion. They can probably pop it for $7 billion, give some premium to the shareholders. They cannot compete with Uber. I mean, come on,
No, I just feel like what's the purpose at this point? Like, if you bought out Lyft, I feel like it's more just to get them just to get them out of there. It's not like you don't get any buildings, you don't get any FF&E, you don't get any.
Yeah.
You've got no value.
Just to get into the rideshare space to compete with Uber. What's the point of that? I don't think that's going to happen. I think it's going to be more like a autonomous vehicle company, like a Waymo or somebody like that is going to come grab him because they have all the mapping done already. I don't think it's going to be DoorDash. DoorDash actually, look, I do my channel checks, and as much as Uber Eats or they said everything is going well, without a doubt, average order value and frequency of orders are going down, and DoorDash is not doing well this quarter. So, I mean, look at the stock price; it's down to $45 a share from 400. So, to me, it's like DoorDash is in a precarious position. I don't think they have the money or the willpower to buy Lyft and fix whatever is going on around there. So, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see though over the next year or so what position Lyft is in.
I had earmarked a thing about Grubhub before Prime, Grubhub and Lyft, but
Grubhub is gone. But
and now here it is, and I know that exactly what Amazon's doing. Amazon's trying to, they're watching it play out before they just level out Grubhub and take it.
Yeah, I think they'll own all of it at some point, but to me, it's like you can't compete with Uber. I mean, everybody knows in this space now. DoorDash is trying to compete with Uber in the delivery side because, they're doing the Dash Marts, they're doing Dash Pass like Uber One, they're doing, now they're getting into or kind of getting into the supermarket shop and deliver space, just like Uber is. Uber is just too powerful, man. And they said they raised their restaurant base to 870,000 globally. That went up about 11%. So they're still signing on new restaurants. I mean, look, the company is doing exactly what they should be doing. The only thing they're not doing is making actual money. They're making fake money called EBITDA money. They're not making gap money, but that's going to happen pretty soon. If things go the way they are and we don't go into a nasty recession, I think Uber is going to be a profitable company. So.
I mean, DoorDash lost their ability to work with Walmart.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, that's. I mean, you got to take factors like that. That's huge.
Yeah. Uber got that
kick under the legs.
Uber Connect got that. Uber Connect got that account. So Uber Connect is on the Walmart deliveries are on Uber Connect now, other than Spark, obviously, that you know about. So I'm like,
yeah, I'm wondering how long though their contract will be valid for, and if they're going to re-up it after it does expire because with Spark.
Yeah. So yeah, Uber is doing very well. Thank you very much, and everybody was happy. I listened to it. Nothing wrong with it. I mean, look, they had a major bang-up quarter last quarter. They had another fantastic quarter this quarter. That's it. I mean, hey, man, the haters will hate. The company's doing well. That's it.
The other thing, though, is it's good that the company is doing well because that means, not only are they expanding, and they are expanding in a recession, but that's going to be good for drivers. Sort of, yes, there's more drivers on the platform, which means many markets are going to be flooded, but that still means that people are looking for rides, maybe food delivery, whatever it might be. So you can still get online and go out there and make money. You're just going to have to do it very strategically versus turning on the app and pinging all over the place.
Yeah, but but that's when multi-apping is going to come into play for everyone now, because just for the fact that, listen, when Dara says average driver, he said, this is his words. You guys can listen to it. Average driver is making $36 in the US. Average, not LA, not San Francisco. Average, everybody. $36 an hour on active time, right? Well, everybody's utilization rate is different. Like mine in LA is maybe 68%. So, but I'm not actually making 38. I'm online. That's the utilization rate. Some guy in a small city in Florida, his utilization rate may be 50%. So instead of 36, he's only making 18 gross, right? On online hour basis. So they keep saying active hour, but that's not reality. So that's when Para comes in saying that, oh shit, you're sitting half the time on your ass. Well, look at this other app. Look at this other app. Look at this other app, right? So to me, that's what people have to do more than ever now, because market's going to be oversaturated. Everybody and their uncle is driving. I mean, they need money.
Exactly.
People need money. That's it.
And that's what David was kind of touching on with the Para Works, is that it's sometimes it's not app stuff, but they're willing to take these app workers who have proven themselves.
Yeah, 100%.
Have a little bit of a track record,
Yeah, because my time is my money. I mean, I don't want to sit on my ass for a half hour, watch YouTube or Netflix in my car. I want to work.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm out there to work. I'm out there to drive package, drive human, drive dog, drive whatever. I gotta, utilize that 60 minutes.
It's depressing to sit in your car and not have an order.
Well, it happened to me quite often.
I'm just saying, it is.
Well, to me, it's okay because I just answer emails, phone calls, or whatever I need to do. But a lot of people, I mean, seriously, like when I saw my wife fall in that fucking parking lot the other day, and I go, like, she got the order before I did. I go, how far did they send you from? He goes, about 1.5 miles. I go, shit, I'm sitting in front of the goddamn restaurant, bro. So I'm like, Uber. But anyway.
Yeah, but you know what? It's going to come down to, though, yes, drivers may be making 36 on active time, but now that more people are coming on board, where are the rides going to go? Is the ridership going to continue where it is? Are they going to get stronger? Are they going to weaken because of what's going on in the country, in the world today, and just the global economics? But what's going to happen to a average driver's utilization rate? Are they at 70%? And then all of a sudden now they're slipping to 30, 40%? That's going to have a big difference. You could still say, yes, your active hours, your active time, you're getting 36 an hour, for the nation or for the average,
Average
Uber
driver.
driver in the country. But if your utilization rate goes from 70% down to 40%, that's a huge drop in your income. That's almost half of your pay.
Yep. Well, that's what but if you look at the pie, 122 million MAUs versus 124 million. So considering the pie stays the same size, but they add another 500,000 drivers, your utilization rate is automatically going to go down because the pie is the same size, but your sliver of the pie is going to be less. So you got to do some other shit. So to me, it's like, hey, people, look, it may be a tough next 6 months to a year, but we can survive and we can thrive by doing different things. Because, there is limited amount of gig workers in the country, man. Not everybody can do gig work, okay? So it's like, do some other stuff.
Although it never seems to end. There seems to be tons of them.
No, it's ending, bro. Believe me. They're just scraping the bottom of the barrel, Steve, because these car driver quality is down, service is down, the driver quality is down. Some of these people can't even read GPS, bro. I'm like, bullshit. See, this is what you do. When you fight to the bottom, that's what you get.
Yeah.
So don't bitch.
But then they're going to keep getting these bottom feeders.
Yeah.
So, all right. So that's enough of Uber.
Uber's
doing great, people. There you go.
Too many left turns. You need to stop. You need to start following the app. We want you to
right turn.
I love the no left turn thing. That's great.
Yeah. That's reality though, Steve. That's true.
But you can use any navigation app you want.
I know, but what I'm saying is that but UPS and FedEx have been doing that for like a decade now.
Yeah, no, but here's the thing: I'm a good driver, I can make a left turn.
I understand.
If I see that, if I just go up and take this left, I'll be at my passenger's destination, or I can take 3 rights, and that takes me 8 minutes. I'm going to take the left.
No, of course you are. But, of course you are. But what I'm saying is that, okay, so, depending on the city, I don't know how Denver traffic is, but morning rush hour, let's say, right? I'm in a busy intersection. I'm going to make this left without an left arrow, right? Bro, there are like 40 cars and only 2 cars per light make that left turn. It burns less gas. You know what I mean? It's a valid thing. I'm not telling you to do it as a rideshare driver, but it works. I mean, it's like burns less gas.
I saw the 22% of accidents involve left turns.
That's true.
I was like, okay, well, how many are right turns?
I think the big
less than 22.
A lot of that though is probably city, and where Sergio, you just mentioned, you don't have that turn. You get that last person trying to get through, or you got you drive in New York City, you get that person that peels out and turns before the light turns. And I think that's where a lot of them are coming. But it comes down to knowing your market. If you know that turn is fine versus going all the way around, taking the 3 rights versus the left, you know your market the best. You got to make those decisions. That's going to be better for you versus sometimes following the map. We always see on different screenshots, why is Uber's map telling me to take all these weird turns when it's literally like right there? And you see it all the time on the map. It tells you the weirdest ways to go at times. And who knows? Maybe they were testing that before and now they're just eventually rolling it out.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
It's a thing. Okay. All right.
Let's move on. We talked about Uber earnings. Let's talk about the other announcement that Uber just made. And this is the Uber Pro reward system is now changing. There's new rewards. There's changes to it. Oh boy, if you're a driver, you got to be loving this right now. I mean, who's going to be platinum besides Sergio?
Now I have a goal to make to diamond to get $600 in 2023, people. I mean, not 2023 when 2023 starts. In November 2023. I'm like, what kind of bait and switch bullshit is this? I go like, not a fucking chance I'm getting those $600.
So yes, for those who don't know, you can get a cash reward. This is the tease that has been going on since I think August or something, that they've been teasing this now. And now they're finally putting it into semi-print, but you got to read the fine print. So they actually say a cash reward if you requalify for diamond status by October 31st, 2023.
Eat me, Uber.
And if you do read it, to receive a cash reward, you must achieve or requalify for Diamond status in one Uber Pro program period and maintain such status until the end of the program period by October 31, 2023. Rewards will be given in the program period after Diamond status is achieved. One time only as Uber tests this new offering. Amount may vary. So those who say 600, 250, 350, it's going to be all over the place.
A lot of people in the comments says I got 350. Driven Dad, Tony got 350, I think. So okay,
Yep.
Here's the deal, man. This showed up on my app. This email is from a driver to me. I don't have any of this shit in here. Okay, on my app, it showed up. It says Uber Platinum gets 600 by going to Diamond. I mean, I can go to Diamond, no problem. However, it is so vague. If I look at that, I go, oh, okay. So if I go to Diamond at the end of, because, as we know, it's each quarter, right? The numbers, like the tiers change or whatever, right? So I have from today all the way to February 1 to go to Diamond to get 600. That's what I'm thinking. If I see that in the app, I don't have this email. This was sent to me by somebody. So that's what my understanding was. I was like, oh, but then I read that shit and I go, wait a minute. Yeah, that's no good. That's garbage.
All right, so these screenshots are taken directly from, yeah, these screenshots are taken directly from Uber's blog that they released earlier this morning. So you can go on Uber's blog. You can type it in. This was taken straight from there. So yeah, Diamond drivers get a cash reward for being at the top of their game. You can get the cash reward if you achieve or requalify for and here's the thing, and maintain Diamond status this period or once in the next 3 periods. Do you understand that?
What? Did you get that, Steve?
You have to now
I don't know.
And then get it every single quarter for the next year? Or can I just get it on one time and then requalify, the following quarter, and then I got that.
Are these earning quarters? Are these?
Yeah. Okay, so
is every driver supposed to know when earnings quarters end, and that's the reset date of the next one?
Well, that's that's clearly marked in your app. So that's not the issue for me. I honestly, my English is reasonably good. I did not understand this sentence.
No,
so what are you saying? So do I have to be Diamond for consecutive 4 quarters until 10/31/23?
You have to be. It sounds to me like you have to be consecutive for 1, and you can do it for any of the 3 periods to come. Only once, though.
Oh,
that's why they're saying that you can't do it. You can't do it 3 times.
So I don't have to be Diamond for until 2023.
I would say by this. Well, no, you just have to do it for 1 full quarter.
Okay, so I read this as, and I'm like, if this is like, how like huge executives of companies, they have deferred compensation, right? So here's the $600 wonderful carrot, right there. He goes, Serge, come on, Serge, get the carrot, Serge. You assholes, $600 for a year of me torturing myself to be a platinum or Diamond? Not a goddamn chance, bro. Now, if this is what I thought it'd be Hold
on. There is a subset there. You see that little 1 carrot, right? Remember the fine print that I say to read?
The 7-Eleven carrot?
No. The cash reward. So it said the cash before it said Diamond drivers get a cash reward 1 for being at the top of their game. Here you go. Okay. There's the one. Okay. To receive a cash to receive it, you must achieve or requalify for Diamond status in 1 Uber Pro program period and maintain such status until the end of the program period. Offer applies to Uber Pro program periods between November 1st, 2022 and October 31st, 2023. Reward will be given in the program period after Diamond status is achieved. 1 time only as Uber tests this new offering. Amount may vary. So what? So this
$600 I'm gonna get if I maintain. Okay. So I can go to blue or gold, but then for 1 quarter I gotta get to Diamond, and then keep Diamond to get my 600. Is that what's happening here?
I think honestly, this is just as vague as their upfront earnings, how they calculate it.
Who would understand this, man?
This we're the professionals here, and this is got me
I have
stumped.
no idea what's saying.
So I'm assuming, don't quote me, people. Please do not quote me. This is my assumption. We will clarify this for you, so make sure you come back next week. We will have what it actually means, the entire bylaw that you need
I have no fucking
to
idea.
know. So stay tuned for that. This is brand new. Uber, if you're watching, get hold of us. Let us know exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. Yeah,
Yeah.
because this is what Dara announced with Harry. He says, "Oh, there's going to be a cash reward." This was it, Dara? Seriously?
Did you really think it was going to be anything more than like a few $100s?
No,
I mean,
I thought like couple grand, bro. Couple grand, bro.
Thought he's gonna
I
make
like
it rain on all the drivers.
$600? What the
Get it
F is that?
right. No, here's the thing though. Like, it looks like if you actually reach that period, if you reach diamond status, you have to maintain diamond status the following quarter or the following pro period, and then you will be able to claim the cash rewards. I don't think this is where once you get it, you have to maintain it all the way through to next year. I don't
either.
think that. It looks like it says you have to achieve or requalify for diamond status in one Uber Pro program period and maintain such status until the end of the program period.
Does this look like it was written by a goddamn lawyer? I mean, who does not drive? That's what it looks like to me.
I think it's sad that I could read Uber now.
This is a joke, bro.
What does this mean? What does this mean,
This
Steve?
is a joke, man. Screw that.
I don't know, if you just threw this up in front of anybody's face that doesn't drive for these platforms, they'd be like, what?
What? Okay, and we're reasonably literate, and imagine you put this in front of some poor, Uber driver and doesn't even half speak English. They go like, what is this now? I'm like, okay. So Driven Dad says, he said something. Tony said, my understanding is you have to get to diamond by the new period and then have it through that period. Bullshit, Tony. I will get to diamond. If they don't give me $600 right then and there, I'm done. I'm not going to maintain diamond for the next 3 quarters to get $600. They can kiss
hell
it.
no.
No, if that was the thing, why wouldn't everybody just wait till the third quarter?
Yeah, like those DoorDash top dashers, right? Top dasher, they just put hell week and they get the top dasher shit.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, there's no way that anybody's going to do this for that if it's not given out till then. They're going to wait till that last quarter.
Yeah. Okay, not
There's no
happening.
way.
Okay, so I'm not doing it. I'm going right back to blue. Screw you, Uber. That's it.
Well, here's the thing. So, my whole thing is I will never be diamond. I don't like, to me, the couple $100 that they're going to offer you is not worth, taking crappy orders or taking crappy rides because you have upfront earnings. You know where you're going. You know what you're taking. My acceptance rate will never be at 70%. It will never be. I just looked at the app. It's at an all-time high of 49%. Actually, that's not even at the all-time high. It used to be about 79%. Right now, about a 70%. Right now, it's at 49%, and I don't see it getting any better. But hey, they got to somehow get you to accept the rides that are shit orders. So,
Mr. Gambit says, yeah, he's being facetious. Yeah, Mr. Gambit, that's fucking funny. He goes, you get 600 each quarter. Come on, guys. Yeah, right. Sure.
No, it says one time. It says one time through this while
that was clear.
Out.
Yeah,
so
that was the only thing clear. Yeah, we're just trying this. Let's see how many people are going to suck on this one. I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Well, here's the other thing. So the other aspect of this is area preference. We've talked about this before. First off, not all cities and markets have this. So for the cities and markets that don't have this, it's not even a reward for you because you don't have it in your area. There's no reason. So it's like, why would you even put that in there if most of your drivers can't even take advantage of that?
They took it away. I loved area preference.
No. I mean, like the areas that don't even have it. So several parts of the country don't even have area preference.
Yeah, I know.
Why would you put this into the rewards program if a driver cannot fully utilize all of the rewards if they get diamond or platinum?
Because
Yeah.
they'll think it's coming soon to their market.
Look, let's be real.
That's like, hey, Steve, look at this carrot, Steve. Look at this carrot. How wonderful and juicy it looks.
Right. If you do this, Steve, then maybe to your market we'll bring this, but not really.
Yeah, but if you're not platinum, or even if we break it, you have to be. I'm like, this was a wonderful idea that they did, and I have not seen one driver that talks shit about this. And now they make a conditional thing, platinum or diamond. I'm like, bro, end it already. Give people what they like. Let them accept some tips for you. You, whatever.
Yeah. And then it says, so we'll go back to that, those little carrot sticks, the number 2, the little carrot that they're dangling. Area preference is currently not available in all US cities. This feature is only available to drivers with Uber Pro, Platinum, and Diamond statuses, and is redeemable for up to 2 hours per day. So there's another condition. For more info, see
you know what? Next week I'm gonna break that fallacy.
Okay.
It's not 2 hours. I've extended it up to 6 hours. So I'll throw people a bone. It's not illegal, people. You know what I mean? But,
well, they're putting another condition though.
No, it's okay.
You know that the ASU is still a reward. So for those who are looking for tuition, that's still part of the Uber program.
You know what
and then the other thing.
I should put all my platinum rewards, because platinum, I had like 4 pages of rewards. None of them I gave a shit about, except one, which is right here.
Which one?
Free fucking shit at 7-Eleven, I thought for a second.
With purchase.
That's not even free, bro. Even that's not free, bro. I can't even get a Slurpee for driving for these assholes. So now that's not even free. I have to buy something on Uber Eats to get shit that's free at 7-Eleven. How do you like that? I go like, God dang it. I'm like, screw you, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So here, look, we Steve, you've watched the show. Sergio and I do the thumbs up, thumbs down. And for everybody watching in the comments, what is your thoughts on this new system? Do you think that they actually listen to the drivers? Do you think that this system is good? What do you think?
Here comes the thumbs
I'm giving
down.
him a double, bro.
2 thumbs down.
Double right there. Why, Weezoom? Why are you shaking your head? You don't want to get a Slurpee on the house, bro? Look at this shit. I have to order $30 worth of garbage burrito on Uber Eats to get my 7-Eleven for free. Come on, man.
Okay.
What the hell?
So here we
man?
go. Uber Pro lets you bring your hard-earned rewards with you behind the wheel and beyond. Our
thumbs
partnerships
down.
with Shell, BP, ExxonMobil, EVgo, urgently roadside assistance, car advised maintenance keeps you moving with confidence.
Oh,
Meanwhile, free snacks and beverages with purchase. That doesn't mean it's free. That means you buy something and you get something. Keep you focused.
No, you have to order on Uber Eats. It's in my app. You have to order on Uber Eats to get this shit.
Yeah, but here's the thing. And a free 1-year Costco Gold Star membership.
I have that already.
That, but they don't have Costco's in my area. That's why I'm moving. Keeps you saving with member-only prices on groceries, electronics, more. Access to a health savings account from Starship, discounts on dental and vision, and blah, blah, blah. Get $1,000 when you complete 10 rides on the Uber platform with the EV vehicle that you purchased from True Car certified dealer, and you reported that purchase to True Car within 45 days. See terms and conditions. So there's some new changes, and yeah.
Just when I
wait, why does it say that if you purchased from True Car and that you have to report to True Car? Wouldn't True Car know you purchased from them?
Probably you stole the damn thing.
That's why I say read the fine print. Whenever you see these things and it says conditions here, you got that little thing. You got to click here. You got to read all the 12 pages of conditions. And then when it says you reported that purchase, you got to click on that too, because it's going to take you to a different page that's going to have about 3 or 4 ghosted things that were on the other terms and conditions page that weren't there. So you have to like double check and make sure, because they're going to get you, because they're like, we're not going to pay that.
12 pages of conditions to get me a Slurpee at 7-Eleven. Screw you. God God damn it. Okay.
Oh
Anyway,
yeah.
there you
So I mean, a lot of people are saying thumbs down, thumbs down. Here's the
No
thing.
shit.
You know, their original program that they came out with, I looked at and I said, I'm never going to use any of these rewards. Like
Yeah.
they don't
They don't
appeal to
apply
me in
to
any
me.
way.
Look, they may apply to some people like Arizona State University, online education, whatever. You know,
Yeah.
they're okay things. But I know who likes this, and I'm gonna talk to you, you know, Jeff, on
Oh, it's
Wednesday.
perfect.
Yeah, my Jeff, my wonderful Jeff has a 99.9% acceptance rate and a 0 cancellation rate. I'm like,
Well, you know, I give him props for trying, and you know, the cash reward thing, they got to clear that up.
What?
Because
Did you see that?
that's
Did you see that? I am Kevin Silva. It goes up front, came to LA on Lyft. Bullshit. I would know that
turn on
before
your
you.
app. Let us see. Turn on your
Fuck
apps,
that.
or, Sergio.
Okay,
Let us know.
Let's see. Let's see.
All right, drivers. Another thing. We've talked about this already, but we are going to bring it up again.
Important issue.
This is something that you want to take note of, especially for those drivers who are using Express Pay. Just know, again, on 11/9 on Lyft, Lyft Express Pay is going to increase from 50 cents to 85 cents. And the minimum amount you can cash out is going to be $5.85. So they're going to put a stipulations on that. And then if you want to cash out without the fees, you can just wait the week. If you don't want to wait the week, then you can get the Lyft Direct program, and you don't have to worry about those fees happening. And they, from what I know, I believe that they pay you after every ride, no matter what. So if you complete that ride, it goes right in your account with the Lyft Direct. Don't quote me again. I didn't read all of the terms and conditions. Same thing with Uber's side. The instant pay feature is going to be increasing November 14th, so about a week after. Going to go again also to 85 cents. And you can do that with your Uber Pro card, where you can get the auto transfers and no problems up to 5 times a day. So again, there's going to be some stipulations there when it comes to being able to use the transfer fee, transfer without the fee. Bleh, there we go. And again, if you don't want to do either of the cards, because for me personally, I'm not going to be getting these cards, so I just wait for the week for that to actually come through. What do you guys do? You do instant cash out or no?
I think there is a sinister reason behind this, because they want to raise it. Look, I bet you millions of people do the cash out because they're short on cash. They want to do it, right? So they're pushing you towards these debit cards. Like you get 7% back on cash if you do it with a debit card, all that good stuff, right? Except that I had an email, which I forgot to send you. Somebody already got the Uber Pro debit card. And the middle screenshot, I'm going to read the whole thing so you guys understand. They're trying to push everybody towards these. Okay, I got a trip. Yes.
Ding ding.
Pay includes pickup. 26-minute, 14.8 miles. It shows me the map. It pays me $14.68 upfront earnings. It's in LA, people.
Wow.
That's a decline, of course. Suck it.
Okay, I gotta see it. I gotta see if it's active in Buffalo.
Yes, people, you are right. I apologize, whoever you were there. I am Silva or whatever. Okay, it's here. Yes. All right, whatever.
All right, I turned on my app here to see if it's in Buffalo or not. So we'll see if we get any rides. Where I'm located, it might take a little bit. So,
you know, it's not as good as Uber's though. I didn't like that pink screen. I got to get used to it. I see. He says James Cook says I cash out every day. Well, 85 cents now instead of 50 cents, James Cook. But yeah, Android is always better. Ozzy, iOS is garbage. So
I disagree. I disagree, kind sir.
I know you do. But it's true. So I'm just gonna go do the short. Listen up, people. If you do get the Uber debit card, Uber Pro debit card, I did not find the fine print in time for the show for Lyft, so I will find it. I will bust their ass. But somebody sent me an email with all the restrictions that they're experiencing because they have the Uber Pro debit card. Okay? Specifically, when you get the Uber Pro debit card, after each single trip, that trip is credited to the debit card. Each single trip is credited for free of charge. Like cash out, If you do a $5 trip, $5 goes to your Uber Pro debit card. If you do a $50 trip, next, $50 goes to your Uber Pro debit card without a charge. However, that's when the problems begin. When you want to go to an approved ATM by that bank, whoever they're working with, I think they're working with Evolve Bank, it says right there. If you find an Evolve Bank or their preferred ATM spaces, you can get cash without a charge. Okay, that's a good thing, right? The big problem comes in. Let's say you collected $1,000 in your Uber Pro debit card and you're using it for gas to get the discounts that are involved. Those are all good things. I'm not going to say anything bad about it. Except that your problem comes into play when you are trying to send money from your Uber debit card to your actual bank account or to your existing debit card that was attached to Instant Pay. Read in the middle screenshot, number 2. Delayed transfers to your external bank account via ACH, which is the wire, are free of charge. Delayed transfers. Instant transfers to a connected debit card are subject to a 2% minimum or $2.99 fee. So if you're going to move $1,000 from your Uber debit card to your bank account or existing debit card, 2% of 1,000 is what, Chris?
2%?
$20.
Yeah.
$20.
Well, here's the thing, though. This is.
I go, you mother humpers. It's my freaking. This is like PayPal, actually.
Yeah, but
what kind of bullshit is this?
Well, here's the thing, though. This isn't. I don't think this is an Uber thing. This is the Evolve Bank thing, and this is very similar to PayPal. So if you have money that's sent to you via PayPal, you will see if you want to transfer it to your bank. If you want it now, instant, it's going to be a fee, and it tells you what the fee is.
Yeah,
or
but
if
instant
you want
was
it in
50 cents,
days,
bro.
then it's free.
Instant was 50 cents, bro. That was it. Everybody was happy using this shit. Why change the game? I know why they want to change the game. They want to know, like, as if they don't know enough about you. They know where you drive, where you drive, who you drive, what you do, the gyroscope, how fast you go, all the shit they know. Now they want to know your spending patterns. They go to this gas station, they go to this restaurant, they go to piss here, they buy Starbucks here. I swear to God.
They already know that.
Yeah.
I already know that. If you have your app on, it's tracking everywhere you're going, no matter what. If you're stopped at a particular spot, they're going to say, okay, you're either parked there or you're going in there. So now getting your purchases, they can, sell that information for.
I know, but Chris, buddy, that they knew from your geolocation.
Yeah,
this now they know where you're spending your money.
Mm-hmm.
You suck it. Not gonna happen.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
There, Vinny Cos, he agrees with me. Sponsors, you're damn right, bro. What the hell is going on?
I mean, Uber can be a lot of things, but don't ever let it be Uber Bank.
No,
imagine that shit.
They want that though.
My bro,
wait until they come up with their own little bank. They're like, we tried this little thing with Evolve Bank and it was great, but now we're gonna
wait till they just put it in the app for you. We'll just manage your money too.
Yeah,
and then what?
Up next, right? And then buy some stocks for you. Let's buy you Uber stock.
And then we're gonna be like, you know what? We don't like where you put your money. You're not gonna be able to go there. Sorry, we're gonna limit you on where you are.
Just when I was in good terms with Uber, today's show destroyed all my reputation.
Well, they got to get called out for certain things.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the whole thing. Like if you're gonna put problems to the drivers and you're gonna cost them more money in the long run, then you're gonna have to be called out for that.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
all right. But do we have anything else?
Yeah, we have one more thing, and that is our side hustle. So if you're sick and tired of Uber,
you know what? One of your apps is probably doing this. Let me see. I didn't choose it because you were on, but today's side hustle. What is today's side hustle?
Today's side hustle.
And you know who put this up? Hannibal put this up. Hey, shout out to Hannibal.
I actually do a show tonight with Hannibal called Beyond the Algorithm.
Okay, talk to him about this. Tell him that we showed his article in Medium. This was his article in Medium.
Cool, yeah.
Hannibal wrote this article, 4-minute article. Please, people, go read it. Hannibal is another gig tuber who has a calm, cool head, unlike some others freaking whatever they call themselves, content creators, what they call themselves. The guy has like 1,200 fucking subs and he goes content creator. I'm like, what are you talking about, bro?
Yeah.
Anyway, Hannibal did this. He has this driver who was on TikTok. Hey man, if you're gonna deliver, this guy made $800 delivering lost luggage. If you read the whole article, it breaks down how many millions and millions of people lose their luggage when they're traveling. I think this is as legit as it gets. If you're freaking gonna drive, nobody in the car, make people happy. You may even get tipped if you take him the luggage, right? Plus, you get paid. Is there an app for this, Steve? Did you know of?
Not an app, but you guys can go to Sean in Town. Sean in Town on YouTube talks. He's the guy that did this. He's the guy that's doing this. That Hannibal broke it down.
Okay.
We talk about things that Sean talks about a lot, like last mile, like medical courier, things like that. So we talk about a lot of the same space. But this was all Hannibal when he discovered this one. He said, "Okay,
I think it's a great idea." So
Yeah.
if you're gonna drive on the weekends, go make people happy. Rody offers those trips. Vinny Cuss says, and Tom, the smartass, says, "How's luggage lost if you're delivering it, bro? It's lost on the airplane. When you board the airplane, you show up, but your luggage doesn't show up.
Yeah, your luggage got on the wrong plane, and they got to get it back over to you."
Yeah. So anyway, I think this is a great side hustle. I'm gonna look into this.
Mhm.
I mean, hell.
Well, I'm still waiting. I'm still looking to see if your cuddle profile gets up on.
No, that's not happening.
I guess the wife isn't letting you, huh?
That's a negative. That's a negative, sir.
Hey, we don't even know that Hannibal's wife's really on board with this. He says it's all cool, but it's all cool till he gets a customer, is how I feel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Hannibal, I saw his video. He was going to do that too, but then, once this came into town, Chris, thumbs up, thumbs down, but this time by the wife, that did not work out that way.
No.
Yeah, but you know what? Here's the thing. Like, the wildest thing was when I was actually looking through that. You don't have to be there to cuddle the person. Like, that's one aspect of it. It's more for like people who are lonely that want a friend. Like, you could do a Zoom call with somebody, and that counts as a cuddler. So, so I mean, you don't even have to be in the same room as the person. You just sit and hang out and have a good time. Like, maybe you play like online checkers or something. I don't know.
You could just go play that online checkers with anybody for free.
Yeah.
What do you think the internet's for, guys?
You can't have that screen-to-screen interaction like we have right now.
So Brian already is being a buzzkill. He goes, Rody's luggage runs in my area suck. Okay.
Well, that's different. That's different than what Hannibal was breaking down, though. Hannibal was breaking down the luggage that gets left at the airport, and you need to look through. You need to go find these gigs. These aren't apps.
Yeah, this is why
this $800. This isn't an app. It's.
Oh, this is not an app?
Well, I mean, there might be some, but there are more likely the things we break down are actual websites where you can find this work.
That's true. Actually, I did Google it. Like 5, 6 came up.
Yeah, see, I mean, like most likely you're going to get paid the best by the ones that aren't apps.
That's actually true. Yeah, you don't have to run all the background.
Yeah.
So
I'm like, hey.
The thing is, if somebody's interested in doing something like this, like they have this downtime and you got a busy airport nearby, this could be a potential option for you. It's just a matter of if this sparks interest for you, or you say, hey, look, this is something I could do, or maybe there's another bit of influence that came from this, or something where it's like, oh, this is interesting, but what about trying with, X product or something like that? This is just to kind of get you some other ideas out there. As we just said, rideshare is starting to get too many drivers again in many markets. Oh, here we go. Oh, Upfront is in Buffalo too.
Holy shit. They must have released it nationwide, bro.
They must have released it all over the place.
They go like, they listen to the Uber
that would have been a good ride.
They go, oh, shit, we got to do this right away.
That would have been a good ride. It was over $1 a mile.
Yeah, he just got
it would have taken me downtown from not that far from here. Oh, well.
All right.
Well,
there.
So,
hey, people, we go.
There we go. We now know that upfront pay for Lyft is in more and more markets. So
officially, we're.
I mean, if it's in Buffalo, it's got to be everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Probably. Probably. Hey, time out. Buffalo.
That was like
Buffalo got upfront earnings from Uber in August before LA, San Francisco, all the other ones where they still had the 510 condition. and
it's a
I'm
joke,
sitting back
Steve.
doing upfront fares from August. So nice try.
Oh shit! Let's end on that joke. That was funny. I got my eyes are watering.
Yes,
Okay.
let's go Buffalo. Go Bills.
That's right.
It was a good
All right.
game on Sunday.
Well, Steve, thank you for coming on, bud. I
Absolutely.
appreciate it. Thank you for tracking down David.
Anytime.
I think he was great. And you know what? I'm just downloading that fucking app. Let's see if they deactivate me. It'll be the biggest goddamn lawsuit on the planet if they deactivate me.
There you go.
Let me tell you
You know what?
something.
I have Para and I have Uber and Lyft linked onto it already, and I've had it for I don't know 2 months or so, and I just got rides, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my love of
there.
and you know, once we get offline, we'll have to talk about something for 5 minutes, Chris. But yeah, next week we're gonna do a deep dive into the life of a LA City morning rush hour driver, of what kind of garbage he gets. Anyway, Steve, again, thanks, bud. Yeah, it was like maddening, bro. It was like trip after trip, and I did one this morning. And this time I was not sitting in my backyard. I actually drove down a couple of miles. Chris, the amount of trip radar and pings I got, I'm a veteran. I was overwhelmed. I was like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, sent me so Sergio sent me the video we're gonna have next week. We're gonna break it down, and it's more for not only just the LA, what you see from an LA standpoint, but also it's for upfront earnings. So we're gonna kind of break down what to look for when a upfront earnings comes in. We're gonna have to do Lyft pay upfront pay now too, since that's all over the place.
Yeah. And then I drove last weekend on Lyft alone. A couple other guys I know drove, so we'll put up their numbers. They killed it. I did well. I think I did like 65 per active hour and about 50 online hour. And okay, Lyft, please, Lyft, do not mess with that area filter. Please. Please. That's the best thing. That's the best thing you have done ever. Don't be like Uber. Don't be like Uber and take the area preference away because I'm not gold or platinum or whatever. It is the best thing Lyft has ever done. Ever.
Yeah. We well, hold on. There's one more thing. Now we have upfront earnings on Uber. We have upfront pay on Lyft in both your market in LA and now in Buffalo. And people who are watching, let us know if you have upfront pay in your market too. If you do or don't, please let us know and what market it is. Turn your app on. It doesn't alert you in any way. It just pops up on there. So because I turned my app on, it didn't alert me. I looked at it earlier today. Nothing showed up. So I just waited for a ride now. So yeah. This brings up a good point though. You didn't want to drive Lyft because you didn't know where the pickup and drop off was, how much you were making and all that. But now you have that. So what app are you going to turn on and prefer to be on, especially with, let's say, area preference being a special privileged Uber Pro reward and stay with an area, which is pretty much indefinitely can be used for and well superior to area preference.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
Be on what platform?
I'm telling you, if there was no bonuses on either program, right? Like no streaks, no quest, no nothing. If you give me the area preference and I know I can work my area, I will definitely drive for Lyft. And guess who has become, I talked to him today. We Zoom, our buddy, we Zoom, right? He's about to delete. He uninstalled the Uber app from his phone. He has become strictly a Lyft driver. How do you like that, Apples? So,
that's crazy. Well, So yeah, I mean that they
Lyft
just
for me, for sure.
Lyft just leveled the playing field. They really did.
Chris, I swear to God. I mean, I'm not too complimentary on any of these companies, but when they do something good, you got to call it good. That area filter is so good. I mean, I tested it 2 weekends in a row now. Halloween, Saturday night. I swear to God, it kept me in that little baby bubble of mine. I knocked out 15 trips. I had streaks going on, $65 an hour. I'm like, thank you, Lyft. Much appreciated. On Uber, not a chance. I had to decline 50 in a row today, just when I was in the morning rush hour. I literally have to, like, it's so overwhelming that trip radar noise, annoying noise, and then the ping noise, and then the trip radar noise. I'm like, my screen was like so full of shit that I was like, I'm afraid to go near the screen because I know if I go near the screen.
It was glitching because Mariah Carey was thawing out and now is come back for the next 2 months.
Yeah, no.
So
I was like, man, I'm like, screw this shit. Yeah, I gotta figure out how that Uber app not to pop up on above everything else. I'm like, bullshit. Like,
yeah, that's pretty wild. But I let you know, I have the apps on my phone because I was doing it on my phone for quite a while. But then when I got my iPad Pro, I'm like, I'm just gonna do it on there because it's bigger, it's easier to see, and I can run multi apps. And then with the new iOS 16 update,
I have two phones. I have two phones. And it's still one is Lyft, one is Uber. And then I'm looking at the Uber phone. I go like, I run my Uber on my main phone and I run Lyft on the other one, on my hotspot off the other Android. I was like, what is going on here? Like, my car was like a cacophony of sounds. One is Lyft is going off, and then the trip radar is going. You know how that annoying sound? It goes like, and then the ping comes in. Da-ding, da-ding. I'm like, oh my god! I go, if I'm a passenger in this car, I'm definitely giving this guy a 1 star because by watching this shit, he is not paying any attention to the road whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, that's next week's show. We're going to be talking about. Yeah. We're also going to be putting to bed the debate on how long a ride request or a ping request from from Uber actually is. So we have the time. You know, like I said, you sent me the video that you had earlier. We actually looked at it. We were on the phone and we looked at it, talking about it. We actually know exactly how long it is. So we are going to be talking about that as well. There's a couple other things that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be breaking down upfront pay from Lyft because that's going to be different. But yeah, next week is going to be a lot to do with upfront fare details. So you know what trips are going to be worth it to take or not, what to look out for, what to train your eyes to look at when a ping request comes in, and do it all safely. That's the key thing, especially if you're driving and all that. So,
and next week, we're also going to have Zach Drives Fast. Another one of these guys like Tony, Driven Dad, calls it the way he sees it. Great videos he puts out. He has a small size channel, but he's well spoken, and we're going to have him at least for like 15-20 minutes, if not half hour. And I like the guy. I already talked to him, and he's going to be on a little bit. But the bulk of the next week's show is going to be like a tutorial, seriously, for drivers, where to train their eyes, what to pay attention to, what's important, what's not important on the ping screen. I think it's going to be a good one. So thank you, everybody.
Rideshare, appreciate. Thanks for the comment. And I'm going to leave you with this last little tidbit of advice before we sign off. We got a couple more things to wrap up, but this is going to be kind of the big thing here. This is something that I came across on a Facebook group earlier, and I didn't have time to make the screenshot for it, but we talked about this with upfront fares, how it's very important if you are paying attention to the fare, to look out and watch everything. And if something does not seem right, to request a fare adjustment and see what can happen. So somebody had put in an Uber Facebook group earlier today that said, wow, Uber app glitched. $29 in fare reviews from this past week was not good enough. So I went back and fare reviewed the previous week, rider canceled fares, and started the week with an extra $60.
Wow.
So that goes to show you right there, when it came down to it, $89 in fare adjustments because Uber did not pay those properly out. So always pay attention to your fares. And if you think something is wrong, submit a fare request. And if you are able to get a different fare that's going to give you more, well, then that's just more money in your pocket. $90, I mean, just from that, that's a tank of gas for most people right there that you should have gotten that you didn't. So that's my tip bit of information when it comes to all this. And
Yeah.
with
If
that
you
being
don't
said,
ask, you shall never receive, bro. If you don't ask, you will never receive. You got to ask.
exactly.
And, and I'm
Not
like,
only that,
man, yeah.
but yes, thank you for everybody for hanging out, watching. Always cherry pick. I like it. Absolutely. Smash
Always,
the like
always.
button. Thank you, David and Steve, for coming on today talking
Yes.
about that. Links are going to be in the description, so if you want to check that out. And of course, the audio podcast will be available tomorrow. So if you are unable to watch the live stream for some reason, it's going to be on the day after. But if you haven't subscribed already, make sure you do. Subscribe with notifications so you'll be notified when our videos come out, because we have a lot of good videos coming up. Not just the rideshare aspect of things, but some other things, other apps that we're going to be talking about and bringing up, and just sharing information with. So as these apps are starting to get too many drivers on them this time around, and inflation is causing problems, and you need to get out there and make money, multi-apping is key. So we're going to be breaking down a lot of stuff. So make sure you subscribe and ring all notifications so you'll be notified when that comes out, as well as when we go live. We like hanging out with you, and we love seeing everybody in the chat. We might not be able to get to comments or anything, but we are reading them in the backs of our minds. And if there's anything there or any questions or something, we can try to pull right away. So
and thumbs up, please, thumbs up on the video, and comment. I'm a fool. I respond to all comments. I even sometimes get into arguments, although I do have the wrench, and instead of making these people disappear, I go into like arguments, and Chris goes, "What are you doing, bro?" And I go,
yeah.
I like engaging, so I answer all my emails. So if you guys have any questions, Sergio at the rideshareguy.com. Oh, look, Philly has it. You know what? They may have released this shit nationwide overnight right now. That's what they did.
I don't know. Some people have said that they don't have it. I've been watching the comments. Some people are saying certain markets don't have it yet. So it looks like they had a quiet launch in a lot of markets. So I'm going to bet that quite a few people did have it or do have it currently right now. You might not know it because you don't have your app on. But either way, comment, let us know if you have it when the show ends. We'll probably make a short or something announcing this nice little new feature coming on to several new people. So yeah, we're really happy about that because
definitely. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thumbs up, please. Help us with the algo. Thank you.
All right. Yep. Have a great night, everybody.